Hello, everybody. This is a sound check, 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 check. Fantastic. We're in business, folks. Welcome to the Rangers. This is. We're going to start that over. We're in business. Welcome to Ranger Stories. This is a weekly stream where I sit down and I do game dev work, editing work on stuff that's being written for the Jump Rangers universe. We read it out loud, we edit it. Hey, Federico. Welcome to Ranger Stories. Thank you very much for being here. How you doing? If anybody's watching this and doesn't know, Federico is the art director and currently the lead concept artist as well of Jump Rangers. Good to see you, Federico. Federico, do me a favor and put your link up there in the since we're talking about it and since this is going to be out there, please put your link on the in the chat so people can see where to find you. So this is a weekly stream where we get online, we do editing, and usually there's a lot of reading. If anybody's here, we'll talk about lore as we go. Um, the mission statement for today is going to be to read through as many of the data decks as we can crunch in the amount of time that we have, and start getting everything caught up to the Jump Rangers 2.0 gameplay. That's the big idea. As soon as we're through with that, we have some fresh content coming in to edit. We're also going to be using Ranger Stories here to get into the novel again and perform another edit. And so everything we do here is an opportunity to discuss story, to discuss gameplay, and to kind of talk about lore, talk about how Jump Rangers works, what makes it work, and find maybe new chances, new opportunities to make it better as well. That's what this is all about. But first, we have data decks. So, um, the first ones are probably going to be pretty simple and straightforward. Let me just set up the stream here. Properties. Okay. There's one, and here's two. We're opening up the... Oh, we've got some interesting stuff here. Got some interesting stuff in store for today. All right, 12. Law and Order. Share. We need the link. Copy link, and over here to the... Here we go. Properties. So I've got a whole new setup on OBS, as anybody who's watching can see. Here is our first file of the day. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. If we end up talking to Federico, I'll switch back over so we can see what Federico's got to say. And get into this. Interact. Great. So detox. This is a pretty simple one. This is just an item that I detailed. So what are the data decks? Let's talk about that very briefly. And it is something, the data decks are something I'm going to be getting back to, by the way. I took a little hiatus while I was editing the book. We're going to correct that. We're going to get back on these. But as a benefit to our $5 a month and up subscribers on Coffee, I have been in the habit in the past of producing at least one microsupplement a week just to make sure that there's always new Jump Rangers content for people to access. Even if it's just something simple like this, I wanted to make sure that every week brought something new to the universe. That's the Datadeck Files. At a certain point, I started using those Datadeck Files as an opportunity to write new chapters on the book and to keep myself accountable for the completion of Jump Rangers, a game called Conquest, which is the book. And I did that, and I was a little tired and burnt out after I finished that. So the Datadeck Files took a break, particularly because we didn't have any we didn't really have any subscribers to speak of, and the ones we did have weren't paying attention. So it's time to get it back up and running. That's what the Datadeck files are. This one is for Detox. It's Datadeck number 11. Detox, available in any med pack. A Detox is a nanotechnological hair hypospray that removes all toxic or unidentified substances from a patient's bloodstream. Like other hypos, a Detox is injected through the skin with an applicator cartridge. While there are no needles involved, it does sting a little bit to use one. While a detox can't cure radiation damage, it will rinse out a person's body of any particles that might be doing harm. So, I don't think this needs to be changed in terms of mechanics, but let's check. So one and done, that's correct. It's a disposable product. When a person is taking damage every round from a chemical of toxin or a chemical or toxin, it does need to be changed. Check us out. Of some kind, injecting a detox dose will reduce the damage one die per round until it is gone. Detox can be taken preventatively, but it leaves the system very quickly. One dose provides plus 10 dice to resist chemicals and toxins. Every combat round, that bonus is reduced by one die until it's gone. 10 dice is a lot, but it's gone in 10 combat rounds. And I think that honestly makes it worth having. If it was just something that you would have, you know, in your kit in case you got poisoned, I don't think it would be worth it. But knowing that you can inject yourself and you have an amount of time to like run through a very toxic environment, I think that is actually what makes the item worth having in the first place. All right. So, detox is done. Let's go to the next thing. This next thing is going to take a little bit longer. Here we go. So, Datadeck file, law and order. I think this actually happened because there was somebody on Twitter asking me questions about how law enforcement actually worked in the Jump Rangers universe. It was a very specific question that got asked, but we got a little more detailed and more specific into. It was a specific question that got asked. We provided a much bigger kind of umbrella of information, is what I'm trying to say. But here's the deal with Law and Order in the Jump Rangers universe. Most human colonies aren't all that big, and even the big ones are tiny by the standards of an Earth city. Let's call it an old Earth city because it is old. Most colonies house a few hundred people, or a few thousand at most. Really big colonies like Fort Paxis on Battleground and Paxis Base on Link have tens of thousands of people living there. Just for comparison, New York City has more than 8 million people living in it. Even a smaller Earth city will often have a few 100,000 people, so human beings don't really have any population centers bigger than a big town. Most colonies are run by a governor, and that governor will appoint a marshal to handle the basics of law enforcement and public safety. Colonies write up a constitution when they are formed, outlining what is legal and not legal in the colony. Enforcing those rules is the marshal's job. And a marshal is usually just as concerned with worker safety, as well as keeping vital equipment like life support and power generators up to code, as they are with things like drug abuse or theft. When a marshal needs help to do their job, either because they're doing something people don't like or because they're up against a dangerous criminal organization, they have the right to deputize volunteers from the community to help them. Such deputies are only authorized to help with the big case they were recruited for. Once that case is closed, they hand in their badge. When it comes to punishing people for breaking the rules, most colonies will elect a judge once every 2 years. Anytime there's a dispute in the colony, it's up to the judge to decide if and how that person should be punished according to the colony's constitution. What's more, marshals aren't allowed to pursue, capture, or kill people without a judge's permission. Failing to get that permission and then hurting someone will usually mean that the judge needs to investigate the marshal. When someone is being accused of crimes for which they can be punished with jail time or worse, that person has the right to demand a jury of their fellow colonists to decide the case. Let's be clear. This is not a perfect system of justice. In fact, many governors have abused this system for personal gain. Grown-ups can be selfish, scared, or cruel, and sometimes they don't even know they're doing it. Sometimes the threat a colonist needs the Jump Rangers to protect them from is the person in charge. Military bases. Some human bases, and usually those that handle huge military or logistic workloads, are not run by governors at all. These bases are usually run by someone with a military title. And at the time between the events of Mission File 1, Undersore Alliance, and Mission File 2, Conquest of Earth, that's no longer called Conquest of Earth. A game called Conquest. Those bases report to Admiral Arden Paxis. I think his name has an I. I think I misspelled Arden Paxis there. I'm going to do a quick little check. I'm just looking for the I'm looking for the data deck. If anybody doesn't know, every single idea, every single item, every single character, every single rule, all of the things that are in Jump Rangers are indexed in a file that is available in the same Google Drive as the core book. It's called the data deck. Which is what and anytime anybody has a question about Jump Rangers, generally speaking, the data deck is where you look. It is with an I. I did misspell Arden Paxis. How embarrassing. Fixed. Of the United Colonial Fleet. Those bases include Fort Paxis on Battlefront, Paxis Base on Planet Link, and Hawk's Nest on Planet Mars. In places like these, it is the commander or the commanding officer who makes and enforces the rules. When it comes to law and order, a commander will usually appoint a chief of security to manage public safety and handle anyone they decide is a troublemaker. Really, the only person who has any say over whether or not a chief of security is breaking the rules is their commanding officer. Bounty hunters. Yes, I said bounty hunters. When a marshal needs some extra muscle to help with a problem in their colony, they might not be able to find a Jump Ranger. On the other hand, maybe they do find a Jump Ranger, and the code prevents that Jump Ranger from helping them. After all, just because a marshal is following the laws of a particular colony doesn't mean they're doing the right thing in the eyes of the Jump Rangers. When this happens, the marshal might be able to find a bounty hunter who's looking for work. Right now, the colonies don't have money. Bounty hunters will work for anything they think they'll be able to trade at other colonies. I think that's a messy sentence. Will work for anything of value that they might be able to use in trade. That's how we're going to say it. Let's not make a mess. Anything of value that seems useful in trade. Giving a bounty hunter some rare metals or gems, or giving them a really useful blueprint that nobody's seen before will usually be enough to hire them on. Bounty hunters are really just paid deputies. With that said, a bounty hunter who travels from colony to colony looking for work is probably a lot more well-trained and probably better armed than any colony marshal is likely to be, let alone a deputy. When the only thing keeping you fed and watered is your ability to capture or kill other people, it pays to keep your skills sharp. Saurian justice. In the Saurian Empire, totalitarianism is the only law anyone cares about. Families, called houses, fight for the authority to own and oversee the resources and power structures that make the empire work. Sometimes those fights are political or economic, involving all the maneuvering, backstabbing, sucking up, and calculating for which Saurian bureaucrats are known. Other times, the houses really do go to war against one another. Basically, a Rexor can do anything they want as long as nobody more powerful or important than them has an issue with it. If a Rexor does something their superiors don't like, they may be given a second chance, or they may just be killed. When a Rexor gets caught doing something naughty, they can always beg for forgiveness. But it will always be better to show their superior how a particular scheme or mistake can benefit them. Of course, the easiest way to get away with grabbing wealth or power is to make sure that nobody ever finds out until it's too late to stop you. Most Rexors struggle with anxiety even if they don't show it. Right now, House Talon rules Soros, which means they hold all the wealth, information, infrastructure, and symbolic power amassed by previous ruling dynasties firmly in their clutches. Whether or not the Rexors of House Talon will kill someone for displeasing them will always depend on how effortless it is to do so. When a Rexor from another house screws up on Soros, House Talon will usually make an example of them just to keep the other houses scared. When that Rexor is on a colony so small and far away that nobody wants to go there and kill them, they'll usually give the offending Rexor a chance to buy their life, and the price is always very high. When a major house like Talon wants to kill a Rexor quietly, without the political attention that comes with sending a Rexor halfway across the galaxy, they send a specially trained team of undersource shadows, to do the job for them. Nobody looks twice at an undersoar, so even if someone sees a shadow squad, they probably won't realize who they are or what they're up to. Bred from a young age for blinding loyalty to their house, trained in all forms of combat, infiltration, and piloting, shadows carry out their missions in squads of 8 and fly in wyverns specifically equipped for stealth. Shadows are the assassins of the Rexor elite, but nobody ever talks about them. Having a family member murdered by an undersoar would be too great a disgrace for any house to bear, so the Shadows always cover their tracks. If any Rexor has ever learned about the Shadows, either they were either they were directly benefiting from what they do, or they were, let's see, I did it again. I got all kinds of mistakes in here. Or they were too horrified, shocked, and scared, too horrified, shocked, and ashamed to ever speak of it. Loom justice. Well, it seems clear that not all Loom agree. Well, it seems pretty clear the Loom do not agree on everything. Do not always agree. Do not always agree on everything. They also resolve disputes instantaneously. When Loom are connected to one another, they communicate at the speed of light. For this reason, nobody has ever managed to follow a Loom conversation, let alone any sort of legal process. Consequently, we don't know much about how the Loom organize themselves. Some Loom have obvious authority over others, and who's in charge can change from one situation to the next. When a Loom obeys their superior, they seem to act in perfect harmony, and there is never any argument about it. When a Loom disobeys, destroying that Loom becomes the top priority for any other Loom in the area. Even in battle, the Loom will stop to destroy a Loom that's glitching before they destroy the enemy. So something that comes up in my mind while I'm reading this is the need just to develop a Saurian and a Loom sourcebook and a colony sourcebook. There's so much material in these data decks. And in particular, I think there's a really good case to be made for building the colony sourcebook and the Saurian sourcebook. The Loom sourcebook is something that is it's already sort of dealt with in both the Lightning Job and in the sourcebook that I'm working on right now, and I certainly do need a more expansive sourcebook to address what's up with them. But the Saurians don't actually, given the fact that they're so important to this universe, they don't really have any books that open up new information about how the Saurian horde works. I think a Saurian sourcebook has got to be one of the next things I work on. The very next thing, and by the way, the stream where I do work on fresh content is called the Datadeck Files. It's something I do on Saturdays before metagame with Federico. And the first thing I'm going to be working on during the Datadeck Files is going to be the source book for the Search for Spark, which is the adventure that I've been running on the rookies. It's mostly written. There's a lot of stuff to pad out. There's a lot of editing to do. That's where we're going to start. The second thing is going to be the source book that comes out alongside a game called Conquest, which is the Jump Rangers Young Readers novel that I've been editing. There's a source book for how to bring players into the action of that story. That's coming next. But after we finish that, it should be a Saurian. It should be a Saurian source book. I'm convinced. All right, let's get on to the next one. This one's going to take a minute, I suspect. Let me scoot back over here. properties. Waiting for it to load. Here we go. So this is something that is going to be new to Federico. It's not something I've really talked about at all. It's just something I put a data deck out on. So let's put this in context for a minute before we delve into it. One of the basic sort of conceptual elements of Jump Rangers is the idea that there's a lot that's derivative about the world building here. Jump Rangers doesn't have a whole lot of terrifically new ideas, except for the idea of the Jump Rangers themselves. We're seeing a whole lot of science fiction concepts that we've run into again and again and again in other games, in other content, in novels, in stories. And we've seen so many, most of the time, so many iterations of these ideas that they kind of leak into our general idea of what science fiction is. And those are the ideas that I want to bring to Jump Rangers. And what makes them special and what makes them unique is that we're seeing them through the eyes of kids for the first time. Right? It's not so much about having amazing new ideas. It's about having these kids who see everything with such a sense of wonder and awe that a lot of the things that we love most about science fiction wind up taking on that sense of wonder and awe, and also that sense of jeopardy. Everything becomes much more new because the people who are seeing these things see them that way. It's an opportunity to play with a lot of the ideas that we love the most or hate the most about science fiction. And one of the things that we've seen a lot of, and therefore something I felt like I needed to address in some way, is the horror science fiction idea of body snatchers. I know this is kids' content, and this is almost always an idea reserved for horror. And it's not something I intend to wear kind of on the sleeve of Jump Rangers. It's something that's buried in there. But probably the moment I was most scared by a movie in my life was when I was watching Star Trek II on TV when I was a toddler. Then I saw the thing crawl into um, Chekhov's ear. It really disturbed me, and the fear that I felt has definitely stayed with me over the years. And that's what I want the brainfish to be. I don't want to scare kids in the same way that I was scared, but I want it to be creepy in a way that body snatchers are creepy. And I want it to engender a little bit of paranoia. And I want that possibility of story arcs to be open, where the Saurian horde and humanity and anybody else is vulnerable to infiltration by this other force that no one knows is out there, except for the few people who do know, and everybody thinks they're crazy. Of course, it's been on Star Trek, right, with the little tails coming out people's necks. That's what I want. So that's what brainfish are. They're called brainfish. It's already more childlike. It's already a little bit more like, it's a little bit less imposing, but still scary. So, just a few days ago, my wife and I were having lunch with some friends, and I blurted out the idea that these data decks would be a great place to explore characters played by two people. I forgot that that was part of it. Because I just had to open my big mouth. Here it is. This one's for you, Gary. Brainfish were first represented, and by the way, that idea of two characters playing one character, that's something I first encountered in White Wolf's Wraith the Oblivion, which is not a game for the faint of heart, but it is very elegant how they did this. And I also um, look back fondly on Cho'Gall from Heroes of the Storm in this regard. Brainfish were first presented in Intel File, Critters of the Galaxy, and they're literal baby lobsters that crawl in through the mouth or ear of a host and latch onto the brain tissue. Ordinarily, they assume control of their host and take over their lives in a secret effort. Too many takeovers. And assume their lives, let's say. in a secret effort to take over the galaxy and create a space lobster empire. In this case, however, you have looked inside the mind of a Jump Ranger. While the brainfish who spawned you have always told you how important the grand undertaking is, that's the secret brainfish plan to control the galaxy. As important as the grand. Okay. You've been shown a better way. You've been shown the path of the hero, and you've decided to bring the grand undertaking down before people really start getting hurt. You're sharing control of this body with your Jump Ranger host, and you've asked them for their help in saving the galaxy from the grand undertaking. First and foremost, it's important to create this character in partnership with the hero who's playing your host. Make sure there's someone in your gaming group who wants to tag team and to play this character with you. Talk about the day you revealed yourself to your partner and how that conversation went. Talk about how you reach your present arrangements. Let's call it symbiosis. And whether or not you tell other Rangers about what you actually are, about what you really are. Can you trust the Jump Rangers around you? Are you worried they might actually be brainfish themselves? Being a tiny space lobster. Only one of you can be in control of the body at any given time. And the number of dice you have available in body as a strength are determined by your host hero's decisions in character creation. So long as you both agree on who should be using the body and heart, that character can assume control without a roll. If there's ever a dispute, then you can assume control of those strengths, as well as the character's physical form, of course, with a contested action. Whoever is not in control of the body is free to use their time building up critical successes for another attempt at regaining control. On the other hand, you and your host are always free to attempt cooperative actions. Combining regular cooperative actions with critical success is where the real power of this character concept lies, so don't hold back. Teamwork makes the dream work. If you leave your host for any reason, you have a body of 1 die and a heart of 0 dice. Making die rolls involving heart without a host is impossible. While you may remember what it was like to have feelings, you can't actually do it without help. No wonder the great undertaking is so ruthless. Being an experienced brainfish, you can leave your host without hurting them. Brainfish can live in any climate and they can swim. Any organic fluid will make a good food supply for them. While brainfish can survive in a vacuum, they're not good at moving around in 0 gravity. Note on scale. Because brainfish outside a host are so much smaller than most creatures, all damage rolls against them for area damage shall double their victories, except for area damage, shall double their victories. All endurance rolls made against them may double their victories. When appropriate, brainfish may double their victories when attempting to dodge attacks due to their small size. Step 1. Picking your character's name. Pick something way too long, and be sure to put plenty of X's, Y's, and Z's in your name. If it sounds like the name of a space emperor or an elder star god, you're on the right track. Pick a number between 1 and 8 or roll 1 die. The result is the number of hosts you've had in your life. Multiply that number by 100 and add your own age to the result for your hero's actual age. So far, this is really interesting. I'm not bad at this game design thing, you know. Step 3, strengths. Every brainfish's strength of spirit is limited by their age. Your character's spirit dice cannot exceed the number indicated on the following chart. So 1 to 100, or 100 to 199 is okay. Your character starts with 1 die in body, mind, and spirit. You can add a total of 6 dice to your mind and spirit. Step 4, virtues. Brainfish don't have any virtues, but don't let that stop you from finding your redemption. Brainfish don't get to start the game with any virtues. Step 5, training. Give yourself 1 training for each host you've had, specifically in the 1 skill that living your life so far. Give yourself one training for each host you've had in your life so far. Be sure to pick training We'll just leave it at that. We'll just leave it at that. Give yourself one training for each host. Pick. Be sure to pick. No, well, yeah. Subject matter for each individual. For your training that reflects the things you would have learned from that particular host. Okay. There we go. That's better. Give yourself one training for each host you've had in your life so far. Be sure to pick subject matter for each of your trainings that reflects the things you would have learned from that particular host. Period. That's better. Step 6, rounding out your character. Now that you've got a basic idea of how this character works, it's time to round out your strengths and training to reflect your specific vision for what this character can do. In addition, you can invest in brainfish contacts. You've been alive a lot longer than your host, and you've built relationships with a lot of other brainfish over that lifetime. Some of them have hosts in positions of authority in the Saurian Horde or in the human colonies or elsewhere. Talk to your storyteller about who you would like these characters to be, and how you know them, and whether or not they might be sympathetic to your new mission. Remember that your storyteller always has the final say. Just like when you're creating a Jump Ranger, you have 20 bonus points to spend. We have 10 bonus points to spend. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to give 10 bonus points, and we're going to knock down the cost of brainfish contacts and allies to 5, so that you can maybe get 2. I think that's a good idea because things are spread out in the Jump Rangers galaxy. If you only have one contact and it's on a very specific planet, that's pretty inaccessible. That's not going to have a huge impact on the story. That's it. You're a tiny body snatching space lobster. Congratulations and good luck. I think this is great. You're going to be a little more highly trained than the average Jump Ranger. And you don't necessarily have a whole lot of things that you can do depending on how you build your character, but the good thing is you have a host. You're using this character to do critical success. I think it's great. I think we save it. All right. Next. Some of these aren't going to need a whole lot of updating, I'm starting to realize. There's a lot of things in here that just don't require a lot. This one I might not be as happy with. Okay. Side by side. So let's get in here. Properties. And I've got, honestly, much better randomized mechanics as we get deeper into the. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm poo-pooing this, and I haven't even read it yet. Let's take a look. I haven't even looked at this since we did it. So let's just ease up, Tenny. All right. Here we go. Interact. So Datadeck file random plot generator. And as you can see, these things cover everything from lore to new character creation rules to just something to throw at the game. Just anything. There's one or two that got written on ethics over the course of the history of the Datadecks, and we'll do more of those as well. When we run out of stuff to write on the Datadeck files, we'll be doing more Datadecks. Or if I need a break, from working on whatever I'm working on, I'll step aside, do a Datadeck. So here we go. Just in case it's not clear from our discussion in Datadeck File 10, I'm offering this up more as an idea generator for individual episodes rather than for an overall mission or story arc. If you want help building the overall story of your campaign, okay. We're just going to delete that. I'm offering this up. No. Something crazy just happened. Okay, I'm going to fix it. Hang tight. There we go. Okay. Interact. So we got to knock that down a space. I'm offering this up more as an idea generator for individual episodes rather than for an overall mission or story arc. If you want help building the overall story of your campaign, I recommend checking out Datadeck File 10, #1 Storyteller's Secret. With that said, this random plot generator is sure to help you create a fun, exciting idea for your Jump Rangers episode. Once you've got your idea, it's time to create the characters and details that tie your plot together and make sense of it all. What are you waiting for? Pull out your trustiest 8-sided die and let's get started. To begin, roll on chart 1 and note the result. Okay. If the result is 1 through 4, your heroes are being asked to result from chart 1, result from chart 2, because result from chart 3, result from chart 5. If the result is 5 through 8, your heroes are being asked to result from chart 1, result from chart 3, that result from chart 5. Okay. So, roll 1 die. Save, evacuate, fight with, train, investigate, capture, repel, defeat. So, result from chart 2. Roll 1 die and find out, okay. Evacuate another team, a small human colony, a huge human colony, a human military base. Okay. And then we have the last few stragglers of an abandoned colony, the very first settlers of a brand new colony. I see. Okay. Okay. This is a mistake here. To begin with, roll 1 die. That's more clear. Okay. Now that you have a template for your adventures. Now that you have a template for your adventuring for your mission idea, now that you have a template for your mission idea, roll on the following charts. To fill it in. To fill in the blanks. Roll in the following charts to fill in the blanks. Now that you have a template for your mission idea. Now that you have a blank template, let's go ahead and underline these. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, I got a little confused myself there. Okay. So, chart 1 and chart 2. Save another team of... Okay, Mistling Village. Undersoul Colony we're trying to ally with. Capture, repel, defeat. Investigate, capture, repel, defeat. Oh, I see. No. Okay. I think what we need to do... We need to... Here we go. We need to move this up here. To begin with. To begin, roll in random plot generator chart 1. If the result is 1 through 4, that's better. Okay. Investigate, capture, repel, defeat. Okay, here we go. Chapter 2. So chapter 3. And find out what kind of heroes you're... Okay. Find out what kind of heroes. Okay. A human. Mad scientist. Colony. One we thought was abandoned colony. One that's just been established. Industrial operation. Military operation. Military base. City. Mastermind. I love it. Okay. An alien civilization. Chart 5. Is fighting for a noble cause despite what the heroes have been told. Is destroying the only water supply on the planet. Is on the offensive. Turned themselves invisible and went on the prowl. Released some kind of poison gas we've never seen before. Has been stockpiling resources for something big. Whatever it is, we know it's happening soon. Started hurtling asteroids at the planet's surface. They're blowing everything up and creating an ice age. Cracked the planet open. The planet's core could destabilize at any moment. Okay. I love this. Yeah, this is ridiculous. No further complaints. Roll on the following charts to fill in the blanks. That's ridiculous and fun. It's just cute. Is it understandable? Is it understandable? Yeah. Random plot generator version 1. There. It's probably not going to get published. It's probably just, oh, okay. Anyway. All right, next one. Lot detox. Okay. Entertainment in the colonies. This is something I've been tweeting about a lot lately. So this is a good one to get into. Here we go. Okay. Entertainment in the colonies. In the human colonies, culture tends to be a lot more local and a lot more personal than it was in the heyday of Earth. Information can't be broadcast between the stars without taking years and years to get where it's going. Instead, information needs to be carried by courier aboard a spaceship, and usually a Saurian spaceship. When a human colony needs to send messages to another colony, they usually just ask a Jump Ranger to deliver the mail. Infiltrate. I missed it. I missed your note. Oh, we're talking about the brainfish. Yeah, infiltrators. Well, you got to remember, Federico, I want kids to read this books. So I'm trying not to be too wordy. I'm trying to be a little more easy. But yeah, big time infiltrators. Because it takes so long for information to get around, colonies aren't listening to the same music or sharing the same stories. Every colony develops its own unique culture. When a Jump Ranger likes a piece of music, let's see if Federico's even still on. I'm just going to check. Yeah. Sweet. Well, thanks for hanging out, Federico. I appreciate it. Thanks for pumping up the numbers. When a Jump Ranger likes a piece of music, a video, or anything else, they'll usually take it with them on a data deck to enjoy and share it in their travels. When it comes to the spread of art, culture, and stories from one colony to another, Jump Rangers are usually the people who decide what's cool and what's not. Back on Earth, before the Saurian horde ruined everything, holographic entertainment was just beginning to take off. So Hollow's film and television is what we're talking about. Holograms were too expensive for most people to enjoy in a personal setting. Sporting events were easy enough to record or transmit for people who owned their own holographic suites, but holographic stories for private display were never very popular. Instead, holographic media was a public entertainment. People would go out to a holographic theater with a number of holographic suites that ran different shows throughout the day. Based on what was playing when the show started, hologoers would choose a show and join the other audience members for an interactive experience. Film and television, which were much less expensive to produce and a lot less expensive to display, were popular forms of entertainment as well. Now that people have spread out into the stars, very few colonies have the resources to spend on holographic technology. When they do, it's usually a holographic table for the command center, used for the business of running the colony. With one or two big exceptions, using holograms for entertainment just isn't something people can afford to spend time on anymore. Live action movies and television take a lot of people to make, and those people need a lot of experience. There isn't even one colony anywhere in the galaxy with enough people to launch a film or television production, although a great deal of film and television was taken from Earth when people escaped into the stars. Quite a lot of Earth's culture from before the Saurian horde has survived, and has been passed down between the colonies over the last few hundred years. One thing that people are producing in the colonies is animation. Stuck in a small colony with a small group of people, with only work and some hokey special events to distract themselves, some people like sitting in front of a data pad and developing their artistic talents. From cartoons to very serious and involved animated projects that can take years or even decades to finish, animation is live and well in the colonies. Music. Pretty much the only thing that's changed about music since the days of Earth is that live music has gotten a lot more popular. Without the hollows and the movies to entertain people, humans are much more ready to gather and watch a musician perform. What's more, most colonies are more than big enough to put a band together, to assemble an a cappella group, or to support a small concerto arrangement. Recording music is easy enough in the 24th century. All you need is a data pad and acoustic space. If a Jump Ranger loves a song, they can usually find a recording of it, although it's always important to ask the musician for permission before you take their music off world. Musical instruments have remained pretty much unchanged since the days of Earth. All the classic and traditional instruments are still in use someplace or other. Many of them can be printed and assembled at a colony tech shop. Every once in a while, a colony's resident music geek will master the craft of assembling instruments from natural materials. Such instruments can be worth a lot in trade, particularly in colonies where those natural materials aren't available. Just like back on Earth, people can map just about any sound to the buttons of a datapad. So digital music comes in all kinds of different forms, and colonists have invented some very clever and engaging ways of performing digital music live. In colonies that live aboard Saurian motherships, recording and rearranging the sounds of the mothership's engines and life support systems has become a way of passing messages or information between scouts who might be patrolling or exploring outside the colony. Saurians don't have much of an ear for music, so the music we make from the sounds of their machines usually goes unnoticed. Usually. Theater. While the colonies don't have the people power to produce film and television, there's usually enough people around to stage a play. All the classic playwrights are back in business, and there's a lot of colonists out there writing new theater to perform. While it's certainly possible for a Jump Ranger to record a theater production on their datapad so it can be shared with the other colonies, people are usually much more interested in having a copy of the script so they can stage the play themselves. Life in the colonies gets repetitive, claustrophobic, and weary. Theater gives people something to work on together outside of the life and death grind of a colony's daily business. Playing characters in a show lets people who see one another every day and who might even be getting sick of one another come to understand each other in a whole new way. Putting on a show gives people something new to look forward to think about, to take pride in, and to remember. Sports. Most colonies will do their best to keep their colonists in shape. Nobody knows when the Saurians or the Loom are going to attack, so group exercise is a part of every colony's routine. One thing colonies don't have a lot of, however, is space. Fighting tournaments are very common. Basketball gets played a lot in the 24th century. Street hockey is popular. In the corridors of many human colonies. I'm going to make a special note here because this particular addition is something that is out of respect to someone who was responding to me on Mastodon. It was a whole conversation. Yeah, what about ice hockey? Audrey Winter was interested in ice hockey. Audrey Winter is a 48-year-old RPG author, editor, and enthusiast. Audrey, this one goes out to you. So ice hockey is officially canonically in street hockey is officially canonically in Jump Rangers. Running is something people do a lot of, and most colonies post their fastest run times. In fact, you know what we're going to do? No, there's no credits on these books. I'll make a note online though. Running is something people do a lot of, and most colonies post their fastest run times to help keep the competitive spirit alive. Sports that require more space have disappeared in the centuries since we ran away from Earth. Even on planets where people get to spend their time outside, having an athletic field would draw too much attention. News, commentary, and oratory. When anyone with a datapad can record themselves with the events around them, it takes a strong presence and a way with words to make a name for yourself in public speaking. In the 24th century, stand-up comedy, news, storytelling, motivational speaking, and speech making have all been mushed together into a single art form. If someone is using these skills to inform and entertain the people of their colony, they're probably going to build a following. Great orators will probably host weekly performances at the local mess or meeting hall, and they'll pass around video or audio files between shows to keep people informed and happy. Some orators will sing and play music as well, in the bardic traditions of Earth's Middle Eastern and European cultures. And that is culture in the colonies. entertainment in the colonies. I think that's fantastic. No notes. Let's move on. Here we go. Copy link. I really am enjoying these Ranger Stories streams. I know it took me a while to get with the program when it comes to streaming, but this is nice. And I think anybody who happens by our little exercise here is going to be at least a little entertained by what we're talking about. So here we go. Saurian culture. Yeah, interact. Saurian culture. Saurian culture works very differently from the culture of the human colonies. For one thing, Saurians find comfort and fun in different things that humans do. For another, the culture of the Saurian horde is something the Rexors build to maintain their system of power. If you're still listening, Federico, this is probably a good one to talk through. This might offer a little insight. Um, Undersaurs and even Rexors from minor houses only see the media that their overlords want them to see. Consequently, the media and events that bring the Saurian horde together look and sound very alien to the people of the colonies. What they don't have. Most of the things a human would expect to see in the media simply do not exist in the Saurian horde. Saurians don't make music of any kind. Saurians don't listen to things for entertainment. Lizards don't hear as well as we do. Consequently, they don't find as much pleasure in their sense of hearing. In fact, there aren't really any performing artists in the Saurian horde at all. Things like theater, film, and dance are alien concepts to the Saurians. Watching Rexors or Undersaurs do things simply for the beauty and spectacle of it doesn't interest them at all. What's more, Saurians don't seem to have any fine art. Images are shared exclusively to communicate information and never for the sheer enjoyment of it. Writing. A great deal of emotion and intent can be found in how a Rexor writes. When Rexors record text, they do it by scratching their claws into rubber like tablets. In these tablets, sensors record the force and depth of a Rexor's claw marks. Every text record is distinct to the Rexor that made it, and it retains its distinctive handwriting when copies are made. In fact, some undersaurs live their lives as scholars of the written word. Being able to know who wrote a specific text can be important in a society with as much backstabbing and suspicion as the Saurian horde. Undersaur analysts can break down a Rexor's handwriting and can trace any document back to the Rexor that made it. Because the written word is so important to Saurian culture, it is usually considered a crime to forge another Rexor's handwriting. Typically, the punishment for forgery is death. Of course, forging is only considered to be a problem when the handwriting of the Rexor is copied by those with less power. After all, why would a powerful Rexor of a major house need to forge anything? Undersaurs are forbidden from writing, although undersaurs with technical, bureaucratic, or cultural responsibilities are expected to know how to read. Gladiatorial fighting. Countless humans have been thrown into the Saurian arenas to fight undersword champions. Champions are frequently forced to fight one another as well. With enough hard-won victories, undersword champions can become celebrities and draw huge crowds of underswords and rexors alike. When an arena battle gets heated, a rexor might even jump down from the stands, join the fray, and devour the other combatants. Despite the passion and fanaticism, I have spelled fanaticism wrong. Saurian, despite the passion and fanaticism Saurians have for these fights, none of them are ever recorded or broadcast in any way. Why? For the Saurians, the arena is just as much about the smell as it is about the visual spectacle of the fight. Saurians have an acute sense of smell, and they can smell blood from the stands. They can tell how afraid the combatants are. Without that part of the experience, the fighting doesn't hold as much interest for them. Stuck on a remote colony, just about any Rexor will have their underswords dig a pit and start fighting for favor from the Rexor caste. If they can capture any local animals or people, they'll throw them into the pit for some extra sport. If a Rexor finds and trains a champion they think has a chance in the famed fighting pits of Soros, they'll probably make the trip and pit their champion against the underswords of House Talon and the other houses of the Saurian homeworld. While beating House Talon in any competition sounds like it's probably a bad idea, Rexors love a good pit fight. Seeing an undersword defy the odds and win in the arena isn't likely to make House Talon angry. Winning in the fighting pits is one of the best ways for lower houses to find favor and build alliances with more powerful Rexors. Smellification. For a species as sensitive to scent as the Saurians are, spending all their time in industrial wastelands and stuffy motherships sounds like a terrible way to live. Soros, after all, smells like it was bathed in tar and set on fire. Most motherships smell like something is bleeding out and dying just around the corner. Inside their climate-controlled environments, the smell of the air is actually very carefully monitored and maintained by undersource. Surfaces are kept clean to prevent extra smells from mixing in the air. That dead animal smell is deliberate. Rexors like it. Iron and other mineral scents tend to agree with the Saurian palate. While the inside of any Saurian facility is bound to smell a lot like guts and machinery, the specific tones of that scent are usually designed to suit the Rexor in charge. When other Rexors visit, they can tell a lot about the Rexor in charge by the smell of the air. On the other hand, Soros just smells terrible. No Rexor would deny that. On heavily developed worlds, most Rexors try to stay indoors and leave the outside work to the undersource. A society of telepaths. Rexors are telepathic, so being organized and forceful in one's thoughts matters a whole lot to a Rexor. When Rexors get together, their minds compete for dominance. When dealing with less powerful Rexors, the psychic experience of being around a group of Rexors can feel like being in a room where everyone is talking and demanding attention. More mature Rexors pull the strings around them in their own psychic landscape. Pull the beings around them into their own psychic landscape, and establish their power as a fact in the minds of those around them. Often the mental power plays of Rexors get so convoluted and involved that they have a hard time telling what's real and what's not. Undersource live their lives under the weight of that mental oppression without the psychic training to push back. Most undersource eventually collapse, spiritually speaking, and accept the absolute power of the Rexor caste. Some will develop the mental or spiritual resolve to maintain a sense of themselves, and such undersource need to conceal their strength and very carefully. If they are discovered, either by the Rexors or the undersource who are loyal to the Rexor caste, they can be sent to the mines, sent to the arena, or slain. That is Saurian culture. We're making some good edits here, but there's no rules, there's no 2.0 stuff to work on right now. It's a lot of lore stuff, but it's good. I'm enjoying this. And again, I think there's a lot of material here for a source book. I think it's time for me to edit together a Saurian source book, just with the stuff that I've got here and some connective tissue. There's even another data deck on the ethics of role-playing telepathy and how to do it. So that's kind of important. Let's get the next one. We're cooking along. There's a lot of these. I don't necessarily think we'll finish this week, but we might finish these next week, which would be hot. That would be excellent. Properties. I haven't been using OBS to its fullest potential. Oh, I forgot I did this. So, interact. Datadeck file, colonial cuisine. Ever since the Saurian horde drove the human race off our homeworld, the one thing people never have enough of is space. When we're trying to stay hidden from the Saurian horde in the loom, every little bit of space we use poses a danger to the colony. What's more, extra space means extra life support, extra lighting and electricity. More power means more electronic noise, more radiation, and more risk that a colony will get discovered by undersource exterminators. Traditional food. Traditional food is what we say when we're talking about the food people used to eat on Earth. Back then, people had farms and pastures. People actually went out into the world and found food in the forests and the oceans and brought it back to a kitchen where it was prepared for eating. Today, most people can't imagine what it would be like to find edible food just out there in the world. Traditional food takes space to grow, so most humans don't get to eat traditional food. Quite a lot of foods still look very similar to the way they used to. Bread, for example, is available. At the same time, these things used to be made from raw materials that were harvested from nature. Today, we grow those raw materials using nanotechnology and the basic molecular building blocks of life. Today, flour is made by grinding up food bars that were grown from the same kinds of cells that once grew wheat. Dairy is grown in vats. Many of the same ingredients are available today that were available in ancient times. We just grow them in food production centers, which function very much like tech shops rather than growing them in farms. For the most part, the quality of these grown foodstuffs is pretty good. Colony food can definitely taste homemade. At the same time, most colonies don't have a huge variety when it comes to the ingredients they can offer. Setting up food production is time consuming and uses resources that most colonies don't have to spare. A colony's culinary customs. How does a colony decide what foodstuffs to manufacture and what kinds of dishes and recipes those foodstuffs are typically used for? The oldest colonies will have been founded and set up by refugees from Earth, and the food they make will have a lot to do with the cultures they came from. Newer colonies have less clearly defined cultural boundaries. Fusion cuisine is very common in the colonies, and old-fashioned recipes from Earth are pretty rare. Human culture has started to bleed together in the 300 years since humanity left Earth. Still, just because nobody thinks too deeply about their culture's roots in the old nations of Earth doesn't mean the echoes of those cultures have faded. Chinese and Indian influence is very easy to see in the cooking of most colonies, due to the sheer numbers of people who took to the stars from those nations. The American dietary custom of dumping greasy cheese meat on bread and calling it food has mostly died away, both because of the expense and the lack of nutritional value. Despite this, a former Jump Ranger named Uncle Slappy is known for making grilled cheese sandwiches and pushing them across a lunch counter called the Ranger's Roost, which Slappy maintains as a haven for Rangers passing through packs of space on Planet Link. Using dairy and grain products from packs of space food processing, Slappy makes his own bread and cheese. If you're not a Jump Ranger and you don't know Uncle Slappy, then you probably don't even know what a grilled cheese sandwich is. One thing that just about every colony has is dumplings. Everyone's got their own recipe and everyone's got their own way of making them, but dumplings are pretty much ubiquitous. What's more, just about every colony has found a way to support the production of alcohol and spirits. Jump Rangers, of course, never drink. I'm looking at you, Rangers. Alien food. Just because human food can't be found growing out in the wilds of the galaxy doesn't mean there's no food at all. Eating things you find in alien worlds is dangerous. Life doesn't always evolve in the same ways it did on Earth. So just because an ecosystem is thriving doesn't mean there's something for humans to eat. With that being said, it's always worth checking. The good news is that no alien ecosystems have ever evolved to catch and eat human beings. No alien ecosystems has ever evolved to catch and eat human beings. Okay. Have tried to trick us into eating them anyway. Okay, here we go. Many alien foods are poisonous to people. But sometimes we get lucky. We'll make this easier. Many alien foods are poisonous to people, but sometimes we get lucky. When something tastes good to humans, it's usually pretty safe to eat. When looking for alien foods to eat, it usually doesn't help to see what the local animals are eating. Chances are they have very different dietary needs from our own. When looking for alien foods to eat, to watch when looking for alien foods to eat, it usually doesn't help to watch the local animals. It usually doesn't help very much to watch the local animals hunt and scavenge. Chances are they have very different dietary needs from our own. Use your science, your intuition, and your patience to search a new environment for things you can eat. Whenever possible, a Jump Ranger will usually just eat from their food pack. Might not be tasty or fun as food goes, but it'll keep you alive. Okay. Okay. Well, that's not a terrifically in-depth one, but we're moving forward. As far as it goes, I like what it has to say. Share link. Here we go. I think this is one that I might not even revisit once. I mean, it might just stay a data deck available to people who are playing. We'll see. It could be. One of the things that I'm thinking about is that there might need to be a player's guide, and a lot of these additional player character creation stuff that could end up in the player's guide. Here we go. So it's another character creation thing, I think, if I'm not much mistaken. Yep. Here we go. Adult character creation for those people who want to play grown-ups in the Jump Rangers universe. And okay. Oh. Interact. Okay, preface. One of the core creative values of Jump Rangers is that kids have power, sneaking aboard alien starships along with the other risks that make. I'm just going to delete the rest of that sentence. Requires a person to be small, quick, and adaptable. Grown-ups, grown-ups are too big, too slow, and too clumsy to last long out there in the black without some help. If you're playing an adult in a Jump Rangers campaign, it's because your character has taken a wrong turn somewhere. What's more, it's important to dismiss any notions you may have about how your expertise as an adult might benefit the Jump Rangers you've fallen in with. Grown-ups in this world have learned to stay out of a Jump Ranger's way, and that the Jump Rangers know what they're doing, even if they have apprehensions. Okay. Grown-ups trust. That's what we're going to say. Grown-ups trust that the Jump Rangers know what they're doing, even if they have apprehensions about giving a child the kind of responsibility that Jump Rangers have. Stories in the galaxy of Jump Rangers are not stories about grown-ups. You are out of your element here. Don't expect to succeed in the same way a Jump Ranger would. Adults exist in this universe, but they are not the heroes. If a grown-up is trying to drive a Jump Rangers narrative, they're going to be fighting the story every step of the way. What I'm saying is that playing Jump Rangers as an adult means playing the game on hard mode. If the adults of this world were as capable as Jump Rangers, then there wouldn't be any need for Jump Rangers in the first place. Okay, so picking your character's name. Jump Rangers get to have code names, but you're not a Jump Ranger. Unless your character has a military call sign, they'll be using the same name they use in ordinary everyday life. If you're a grown-up in the Jump Rangers story, flying through a galaxy full of monsters who want to kill you, then somewhere along the line you made a really bad decision. Maybe you decided to leave your colony, sneak aboard an alien mothership, and fly to another world without asking the Jump Rangers for help. Maybe you let yourself be recruited into Admiral Pax's fleet, and now you're going to war against the Saurian Horde as a fighter pilot aboard one of his brand new space carriers. Maybe you're some kind of criminal, and you're getting as far away as possible from the colony you just robbed before they figure out what a bad person you are. No matter what you did, it was stupid. Really stupid. You really screwed up. That's how you became a grown-up in a Jump Rangers story. Describe your mistake. You're going to need this information later on in the character creation process. This is cute. Your character is at least 18 years old, and they can be as old as you like. Please write your character's age down on your character sheet for future reference. Strengths. Your character starts with 1 die in body, mind, heart, and spirit. Before you add any more dice to your character, find your age on the chart below and roll the corresponding number of dice. Count that number of dice that are showing 8s as a result of your roll and subtract that total from the number 9. The result is the number of dice you may add to your body, heart, and mind. Your spirit will remain at 1. To play an adult with a spirit of higher than 1, you need to create that character as a Jump Ranger and play that character into adulthood. Maintaining one's sense of magic and wonder into adulthood takes mindfulness and discipline, after all. So far, we're on the right track. What is the value? You know what? We are going to put a cap on body to create a penalty for being old. Because you do get extra training. All right, so let me pull that penalty from the Jump Rangers, from the Spirit. It's going to be the same mechanic that we use for Spirit. So we're going to pull that out. It does need a little extra help here. Let's see here. It's in the chapters. It's in chapter 4. So we're just going to reach in, grab this. Maximum body by age. Maximum. There we go. Okay. Let's just zoom back over here. Pop that in there. There we go. Okay. Delete 5 rows. Okay. Okay. Fantastic. So why? Oh, okay. Let's try this. Copy. Now we go in here. Paste. Nope. Dang it. Okay. Yeah, we screwed that up a little bit. It's okay. Get rid of that. I am going back over to the I'm pulling the filey folder out of my whatchamacallit. I think the problem here might be that there's not enough space in the table. We're going to see if that's the problem. Okay. Adult character creation. Oh, you know what? Actually, it's registering just fine. This is a problem with the display in the viewer that we have for OBS. So good for us. Let's see here, properties. Let's get back over there. Okay. And interact. Oh, and it worked even. Great. Okay, fantastic. A character's maximum. Note that the maximum number of dice a character can have in body is limited by their age. Easy peasy. For a look at the beginning adult character can have in body is limited by their at your characters. Please consult the chart below. Please consult the chart below for your characters. To find out characters' strength of body, please consult the chart below. To find the limit placed on your character's strength of body. New characters are prohibited from exceeding this limit, even with character creation bonus points. You know what? We don't give these characters bonus points, and I love that. Great. So, step 5 virtues. Remember that one stupid decision that got you into this mess? Choose 3 adjectives that describe the choice you made and which place it in a critical or self-effacing context. Those are your virtues. Use them wisely. For every decade that your character has been alive, give yourself one training that describes the thing you are most focusing on doing over the course of those 10 years. Rounding out your character. Being a grown-up means you're settled in your ways. So you're not going to be allotted any extra strengths, virtues, or training in character creation. In addition to any tools you may be issued as a result of your profession, you may have one spacesuit, one blaster, one food pack, one med pack, and one data deck as per Chapter 5 Tools of the Trade of the Jump Rangers core book. Good luck out there. No notes. You know what? I actually nailed it. I love it. I think putting that restriction on body is the cherry on the sundae. Fantastic. And again, this is an ideal thing for the player's handbook. I'm going to keep a list of supplements that I should be writing. Let's see here. Missions for the core book. Things to add to the data deck. Datadeck files. Okay. A game called Conquest Game Assets. Jump Ranger notes. Themes, links, upcoming expansions. This is it. Mission File 2, Conquest of Earth. Intel file, the Saurian Horde. Intel file. The human colonies. Intel file. The Hero's Handbook. That's it. Great. So, on to the next thing. This looks like a little bit more of an ethics or good practices, best practices kind of thing. Let's see what we got here. I haven't, some of these I haven't touched since I published them. Most of them, really. I go back through them for quotes and things, but there's a whole lot of them I haven't looked at. Adult character creation. That's good. All right, properties. Let's see here. Okay, let's interact. Oh, look at this. Storytelling with adult characters. Before we start, I'm going to recommend reading Datadeck number 10, number 1 Storyteller's Secret, to anyone who hasn't done so. Storyteller's Handbook. Now, this could be in the Hero's Handbook. Oh, okay. I gasped because I lost my desktop, but it was a mouse thing. It was a mouse over thing. It was OBS causing panic in my life. Okay. In that data deck, we explore the idea. In that data deck file, the data deck is the big thing. Thank you very much. We explore the idea that drama. Data deck file number 10. In that data deck file, we explore the idea that drama comes from the efforts of our characters to achieve goals rather than from how our characters react to the plot. In other words, really good stories are about the things our characters do rather than the things that happen to them. Comedy. When we're talking about dramatic structure as a function of the action of the story, comedy winds up coming from a very specific place. Comedy is what happens when a character commits 200% to a mission for which they are horrifically, absurdly, magnificently ill-equipped. In other words, comedy is when a character puts everything they've got into a mission they have no business undertaking in the first place. Because adults are horrifically equipped for surviving outside their colonies for any length of time, adult characters can be a fantastic source of comedy in a Jump Rangers campaign. If you're playing an adult who's trying to keep up with a team of Jump Rangers, or if you're storytelling in a game where one of your heroes fits this description, then the key to making the most of that character is for the player to commit everything they have to being a hero according to whatever standard they've set for themselves. Everything they have to being a hero with the understanding that it's not going to work. The actual Jump Rangers will need to keep bailing this character out of trouble, and the player will need to accept this fact as a condition of the game, even as their character flatly refuses to acknowledge their limitations. If you and your hero can strike and embrace this balance, then your adult character can be an endless source of comedy in your Jump Rangers campaign. While it might seem backwards to let a grown-up be the comic relief in a game that's all about rambunctious kids, this is truly one of the most sustainable ways to incorporate adults into your campaign. It is the responsibility of a Jump Ranger to make sure the civilians around them, including any adults, get delivered safely to their colonies. If an adult refuses to stay where they belong, then that adult is naturally going to create conflict for your Jump Rangers. And hilarity, as they are so fond of saying, ensues. War stories. In Mission File 1, Undersore Alliance, General Arden Paxis, I wrote it correctly this time. A Fort Paxis on Planet Battleground secures a Saurian starship, reverse engineers the technology of interstellar travel, and begins construction of humanity's first mothership, a space carrier called the Cavalry, capable of delivering space fighters and other military forces across the vast reaches of interstellar space. Soon enough. Hello, Ippy Looney's up. It is hot in here. Yeah, go ahead and open the door. Soon enough, Paxis is using the cavalry to secure the resources he needs to build even more carriers. His plan, simply put, is to bring the fight to the Saurians. What Paxis is really trying to do here is give grown-ups the power to shape the galaxy. For centuries, humanity has relied on the Jump Rangers for their hope of a better future. Paxis has grown impatient and he's picking a fight he can't possibly win. Of course, that won't stop him from trying. What Paxis and his forces are fighting for is something any adult can relate to. As the larger narrative of the Jump Rangers universe unfolds, the desperation that Paxis and many of the other adults feel will shape their destinies and the destiny of the colonies as a whole. For now, that desperation is real, it's understandable, and it's driving grown-ups to enlist in the newly founded United Colonial Navy. We're going to give me just a second to go AFK so I can open a window and help my wife out. Give me 1 sec. We're back. If you want to tell a story about the grown-ups of the Jump Rangers galaxy taking on the challenges and the themes that come with living in the shadow of an interstellar empire of space dinosaurs, then it makes a lot of sense to set that story on one of the carriers of the UCN. This is a deliberate battle against an insurmountable foe with superior technology, superior numbers, and a warrior spirit. All a pilot can rely on is their trusty Pegasus or Hercules, the soldier by their side, and the meager logistics support of a navy that's still figuring things out. Pushing the Saurians off worlds where their military commitment is weak enough, finding and securing the resources to expand their forces, and building alliances with rebel underswords will pave the way for a joint effort to take Soros itself. Our galaxy is a very big place. Even the Jump Rangers can't be everywhere at once, and the grown-ups are getting tired of waiting around for a bunch of kids to come and rescue them. If you're going to tell a story about a bunch of adults pursuing a mission that's personal, urgent, and overwhelmingly and challenging, this is an obvious place to start. Survival stories. When a grown up leaves their colony and heads out into the stars, they're not likely to last very long, but that doesn't stop some adults from trying. The thing that separates a survival story from a comedy is the self awareness of the adult in question. If a character knows the odds are against them and their mission is just too important for them to ignore, then whatever happens along the way becomes just another obstacle they need to overcome on their path to success or tragedy. So long as your character has a sense of what they're getting into, this can be the foundation of an intense emotional story that explores the deeper dramatic potential of the Jump Rangers galaxy. If you take a look at Intel Files Runaways, you'll get a sense of all the things that can go wrong when someone without the proper talents and training starts hitching rides on alien spaceships. What's important in a story like this is that you keep the long-term goals of your characters in focus. If a character gets themselves thrown in a loom science bay or tossed in the Saurian gladiator pits, then the experiences they have in there are secondary to the fact that they're trying to get where they're going. They can make friends or enemies along the way. They can suffer setbacks and fight their way to incremental victories. Just don't lose track of the bigger picture. It's not about escaping the bad guys. It's about finding a way to do whatever it was they set out to do, even when it seems impossible. Closing thoughts. Playing this game with adult characters means welcoming an adult perspective and an adult sense of stakes. One way or another, this is going to mean your adult characters need to take their missions a lot more personally and a lot more seriously than a kid would. Maybe that seriousness gets played for laughs, or maybe it's the only thing that sees them through an ordeal that would certainly kill them otherwise. In any case, these impossible stakes are the clear reason why most adults stay safely tucked away in their colonies. Grown-ups simply aren't cut out to succeed in the universe of Jump Rangers. They can fight that reality all they want to, and it's certainly possible to tell stories about them doing so. When we do, it's our job as storytellers not to lose sight of the deeper truth that it takes a kid's ingenuity, strength, and spirit to make things happen in a galaxy as untamed as this one. That's a great little mini supplement on playing adult characters. That's 2 weeks of good work on your part, yours truly's part, as far as I'm concerned. I like it. I like the adjustments we made. We're moving on. All right. We got what do we got here? Something to do with the loom. I don't know what I'm opening because I can only see. Oh, I clicked the wrong thing. Loom culture. Okay. This is actually all very relevant to the game that I've been running for the rookies. All right. Let's look into it. Our Chihuahua is having issues, as always. Until now, very little has been said in the galaxy of Jump Rangers. What's that, sweetie? Ah, Ippy Loonies wrangling the animals. We got Gambit over here, we got Lou over here, and they're causing each other drama. Federico, we'll introduce you to Gambit in a little bit. Until now, very little has been said in the galaxy of Jump Rangers about how the Looms think or how they see themselves or how they see other beings in the galaxy. In Intel file of Mice and Mandibles and Intel file Critters of the Galaxy, we pieced together that the Loom abandoned their physical bodies for an existence as beings of pure energy in order to win their war against the Spore. Long, long ago, the Loom tried taking over an intelligent planet named Eden. Growing the first spore and launching it far, far out into space, Eden created the spore bugs and let them spread out into the galaxy so they would fight the Loom. Soon enough, the spore bugs encountered Loom space, infested Loom worlds, and began to feed on the Loom's high-tech civilization. To make themselves immune to the neurotoxins of spore gas, the Looms stored their intelligence and their life force inside their machines and left their organic bodies to the pages of history. To this day, the Loom are far too busy fighting off the spore to focus their full attention and might on stripping the galaxy of its natural resources. For now, at least, Eden is safe. None of this tells us who the Loom actually are. What do they want? How do they relate to the world around them? Rangers, it's time we talk about the Loom. Before the White Hole. When the Loom were still physical beings, they lived inside gray, scaly, skinny lizard bodies and traveled between the stars in search of the resources to expand their civilization. While the Loom had a great deal in common with the Saurians, they did not share their passion, the passion for war that drives the Saurian horde. In studying the ancient archaeological remains of the Loom, Saurian scholars have wondered if the Loom originated on Soros at some point in the distant past. One Saurian scholar even dared to wonder if perhaps Soros had once been colonized by refugees from the Loom homeworld, wherever that might be. Of course, that scholar was immediately put to death. When the Loom realized their fight against the Spore would cost them everything they'd built, the leaders of their civilization made the decision to give up their bodies, to live as energy beings inside their robots and machines. While this decision has certainly cost the Loom, it does give them two advantages. First, no Loom will ever lose their higher brain functions simply because they've been exposed to the toxic spore gas by which the spore conquer world after world. Secondly, being free from the limitations of biology has allowed the Loom to thrive in places where the spore can't even build their hives, at least not yet. Let me take a quick look. Show the passion for war that drives the Saurian horde. They didn't show the passion for war. They were still trying to take over. Gambit's got a little mushroom. Got a little Mario mushroom. Yep. All right. No human really knows where the Loom came from. While there are still Loom who are old enough to remember when it happened, none of them seem to remember much about it either. None of them have told the story. Maybe the memory is too painful for them. On the other hand, maybe they just don't care. Maybe they never really cared at all. I think we can delete that. One thing we do know is that the Loom did this to themselves willingly. Unlike the Saurians, Loom civilization has always been united behind the attainment of perfection. Loom sought to conquer the galaxy because they thought it would help them fulfill their own potential. From what the Saurian scholars can unravel, they have always worshipped themselves. Maybe for them, the white hole was just the next step in their pursuit of their own perfect destiny. Maybe they saw the spore as a challenge from the universe, like a test of their own perfection. To justify their existence, maybe they thought they had to overcome that challenge at any cost. Into the white hole. While nobody has discovered the place where the Loom's transformation actually happened, we know there was an actual place, a huge place somewhere on the yet undiscovered Loom homeworld, where people went to have their minds and their life force sucked from their bodies and processed into the energy state in which the Loom exists today. Well, we don't know much about what that place was like. Those few Loom who reference it in their communications have called it the white hole. Keep in mind that translating information out of Loom code is something humans are still very new at. Anytime we talk about Loom culture, there's a good chance we're getting something wrong. Inside the white hole, just like the inside of any communal Loom space, we call them batteries, the minds of the Loom tend to mush and meld together. Individuality gets very blurry in a space like that. Information flows freely. Communication happens instantly. Memories are shared. Ideas and perspectives move like tidal waves through the minds that are gathered there, and more delicate or nuanced ideas are crushed or smashed. When a loom separates from the collective, they have been brainwashed by all the catchiest, laziest, most seductive ideas the loom can think of. Remember, just because an idea is popular doesn't make it right. Loom philosophy. One of the ideas the loom have clung to is the notion that they've already learned everything there is to learn. While the loom do study saurian biology, for example, they're not really looking to discover anything. All they're doing is settling arguments between loom about who has the best understanding of how saurians work. In other words, the loom are always looking for evidence that confirms what they already know. They're never looking for something new, and they probably wouldn't recognize it if they found it. If they seem willing to destroy everything in their path, it makes sense. As far as the loom are concerned, what's the point in letting those things exist when there's nothing you can learn from them? More than any other idea, people get seduced by the notion that they're right about everything, that they understand how the world works. What could be more comforting than that? If people could mush their brains together into a collective mind, even for a moment, the number of people who think this way would overwhelm the ones who see things differently. Maybe the loom aren't so different from us. What I'm saying is that the loom have very, very fragile egos. Combining fragile egos with lots of firepower makes for a violent, dangerous society. When you think you know everything, the nagging possibility that you might be wrong about something can make people feel very insecure and can drive them to do terrible things. Where baby loom come from? While the loom don't make babies in the traditional sense, they do reproduce. When a loom has an idea or a thought that makes them uncomfortable or that makes them feel like they might get in trouble, they try to ignore it. They distance themselves from it. If they separate themselves from this idea enough, then the idea develops a mind of its own. When, Wherever that loom happens to be, whether it's in a robot, a mothership, a battery, or anything else, or anywhere else, they are suddenly sharing that space with the new being they have created. And inevitably, this new loom makes them uncomfortable. After all, this new being has formed around an idea that the parent loom didn't like to begin with. When new loom are formed, it is the way of the loom to surround them with the biggest collective they can find as soon as possible. This way, the new loom will absorb the knowledge and ideas of loom society as a whole. New loom that are absorbed early will tend to become useful members of loom society. Loom that mature away from the collective can be dangerous and may need to be destroyed. An empire of ideas. The loom don't need a government. So long as they rejoin the collective frequently enough, every loom will be guided by the most widely accepted, basic, easily digested ideas of the collective as a whole. If everyone already knows everything they need to know, and if everyone agrees on what those things are, then why would anyone need a leader? Everybody already knows what they need to do. If someone disagrees, they get bullied until they see things differently. In those rare instances where a conflict between two ideas can't be resolved through simple browbeating and brainwashing, those two loom will set out to prove their point. Wars have been fought and planets have been ruined because a pair of loom couldn't agree on something. This, for example, is why the loom keep experimenting on saurian rexors. When a pair of loom get in an argument, they don't really care who pays the price for it. All they care about is being right. Respect means having the bigger gun. When a baby loom is first allowed to journey out from the collective intelligence of their elders, that loom is allowed to pilot a dwerge, a spider-like maintenance and labor droid. On the one hand, forcing young loom to work means every loom has a stake in how things are done. At the same time, putting young loom in a dwerge means they can't cause too much destruction if they decide to rebel. Other loom robots like the Jotun and the Elves can make short work of a dwerge if it comes to that. Most loom will not hesitate to destroy one of their own, even if the only thing that individual has done wrong is to make someone else feel uncomfortable. As a loom proves their devotion to the consensus and to the ideas that dominate loom society, that loom is allowed to pilot more dangerous robots. Of course, this makes a lot of sense. The more time a loom spends swimming through the ideas and the emotions of the consensus, the more they accept them as ultimate truth. If a loom rebel really does want to change loom society, they need to have a whole lot of willpower. Yeah, I can do a loom supplement too. I can. I'd have to do some more work. Or I could include this in the book that I'm already writing, The Search for Spark. Something to think about. Definitely something to think about. The Search for Spark can be a mission in a Loom supplement. That's how we do this. That is the key here. That is the key here. Okay. So, Intel file. Let's just pop a new one. Upcoming expansions. Mission, Intel file. The Loom. That's how it's going to work. That's how it's going to work. I like that. All right. So, we close this down. We grab the next file. We're halfway through our stream. Congratulations, everybody. We're trucking along. Let's grab this. We got more Loom stuff here. Copy link. Properties. Loom Rebel. Yep. Interact. Okay. Loom Rebel. Rebel Dwerge. In Datadeck File 20, Loom Culture, we discover why it's always the young Loom who tend to act out against the collective. When baby Loom are finally allowed out from under the overwhelming presence of their elders, when they take a robot and start working to further the goals of the collective as a whole, those potentially rebel Loom are always assigned a Dwerge robot to work in. Dwerges are metal spiders, roughly the size of a Cerberus squad, with cutting and mining laser system mounted in the belly and a bunch of tools that can extend through hidden hatches on robot arms. Designed to be a labor and repair robot, the Dwerge is the least dangerous robot that a Loom is allowed to pilot. If the Loom believe that an individual is spending too much time in a robot and not enough time in batteries with the rest of their collective, they grow suspicious. Being suspicious of anyone is more than enough reason to destroy them in Loom society. Any Loom who wants to rebel in some way will need to learn to hide their deepest thoughts from other Loom when they join the battery. At the same time, they will also need to remember what those ideas were when they are drowning in the more popular and widespread thoughts of the collective. When a rebel relies on the strength of their mind to get them through, they set themselves up to fail. Any mind is weak when compared to the power of dozens or hundreds of thousands of other minds. If, on the other hand, a rebel can rely on their feelings to tell them who they really are, then they are storing that data in a language the other Loom don't know how to read. If they learn to listen to their feelings when their mind is confused or even brainwashed, their deeper sense that something might just be the thing, that something is wrong, might just be the thing that leads them back to themselves. Body 8 dice. So this is a Dwerge piloted. Okay. Here's what I need to do right now. I need to pop this up. We're going to do a side-by-side comparison with the Dwerge in the mission file. Let's see, mission file, the lightning job. Here we go. So, properties. Okay. There we go. Transition. Whoop. That's right. You're going? No, thank you. Okay. If you find something yummy that I would like, then please get it for me. Okay. I love you so much. Love you too. Bye-bye. All right. So, let's grab this. The Rebel. Interact. There's a lot that OBS can do. It's pretty handy. But one thing it can't do is open more than one file at a time, I'm discovering. All right, so let's go to the Dwerge. There we go. All kinds of freaky tools, calculating, clever. So mind, heart. Okay. So we're just going to grab these two things right here. And then we're just going to transition back over here. Interact. All right. Is there anything here that on technology? Calculating clever, emotionless, industrious, metal, relentless, and scanning. No, we're going to go down to 1 die. Body 8, heart 3, mind 3, spirit 1. Emotionless, industrious, metal, relentless, scanning. We're going to delete this. Construction. Rebellious. Yeah, obviously. Construction, destruction, improvisation, loom technology, mining, repair technology. Instead of technology, we're going to give them hacking. ABCD of G, H, I, J, K, L. Yeah. There. Anything else here? That's it. That's Luna. She's having a moment. All right, so moving right along here. Properties. Let's see what else we got. So we got some loom stuff there. We've actually been, we've been trucking through these. There's plenty more to do, but this is a good place to be. So it's a loom source book. It's not a mission file. And we'll work on that. We'll work on that in the Datadeck files on Saturday. Transition. Rimbots. This is just another one of those little one-shot concepts. Interact. Rimbots. Robot manifestation manufactured by itself. Rimby. Nobody really knows where they came from, but the Rimbies, or Rimbots if you like, are a seemingly harmless infestation of robots that have spread through known Saurian and Loom space. Shaped like little robot bugs in all kinds of shapes, but always very small, the Rimbots use trash and discarded technology to build more of themselves. Curiously, the one place in the galaxy where Rimbies have not been spotted is on planet Clearance. When Rimbots reproduce, they always do it by working together in groups of at least 12 robots. When they are not reproducing, Rimbies are never seen together. When you do see a lone Rimbot, you almost always see it looking right back at you. Spoiler. In actuality, Rimby is... Let's get rid of that. A Loom rebel who has successfully escaped the Loom Collective by storing itself in a vast collective of robots. I'm just going to say successfully escaped the Loom. By storing itself in a vast collection of miniature robots. This Loom intelligence has spread itself so far and wide and thin that its energy signature will never appear on Loom sensors. When more than one Rimby is within range of the Rimby's limited wireless network, each Rimbot will possess a number of mind dice equal to the number of Rimbys on the network. What's more, those Rimbots will function with the combined memory and understanding of the individual bots involved. By designing itself to consume waste for power and reproduction, Rimby hoped to build a symbiotic relationship with Saurian and Loom society, and either be ignored or embraced by them. For the most part, it's worked. While Rimby doesn't have actual relationships with either civilization, it will sometimes assemble enough Rimbots to communicate with Mistling colonies. Note on scale. Because Rimbots are so much smaller than most creatures, all damage rolls against them, except for area damage, shall double their victories. Yeah, all endurance rolls may double their victories. When appropriate, Rimbots may double their victories when attempting to dodge attacks or evade detection due to their small size. Loom. LMNOP. We're going to put that there. It's got to have some Loom knowledge. Has to. I love this. This is a great idea. It's just an opportunity for a little. You're walking along and you're a Jump Ranger, you see this little tiny robot bug looking at you. You want to find out what that is. A little mystery to solve. All right. I like it. Good one, Tenny. You know, I thought a lot of these were going to be kind of stinkers. They're not. All right. We're getting into Saurian sourcebook stuff now. Side by side. 1, 2. Properties. Interact. Major houses of the Saurian Horde. I've done some good work here. In this data deck, we'll be discussing the major houses or families that rule the Saurian Horde as we know it today. Lesser or minor houses exist, and most of them pledge fealty to one of these major houses in exchange for the chance to increase their standing within the empire. Some houses do choose to close deals and build relationships with more than one house, and those houses tend to exist on the fringes of the empire. If they were closer to Soros, they'd be gobbled up by a major or even minor house looking to seize their power and resources. House talent. We can have a sip. My throat's starting to go. Okay. We still got Federico, too. I must be in the background while he's doing art. More than 500 years ago, House Talon seized the capital of Soros from House Necros. Since that day, House Talon has reigned as the primary power of the Saurian Horde. Because their defeat of House Necros was so complete, the other houses of the Horde have done their bidding ever since. Nobody wants to become the next target in House Talon's grab for power. Instead, they prefer to help House Talon keep its sights set on frontiers and opportunities outside the Empire. House Talon isn't blind to this political dynamic. In fact, they've cultivated it. Is there an extra space in there? There is. I used to be a huge fan of double spacing. I've just frustrated so many fellow neurodivergents that I've eventually arrived at the idea that maybe I need to stop. House Talon has pressed the Empire into war against the Loom at every opportunity, fighting for every natural resource they can seize from the robots, in order to make sure the Empire always has a common enemy to unite them. Making an enemy of the Loom plays right into House Talon's hands by making sure House Stellaris, House Dragon, House Serpentis are constantly in need of military support from House Talon. To the rest of the Empire, it looks like House Talon is helping the Horde win a war against the Loom. For House Talon, the war is what keeps them from trying to seize Dragon City. House Talon's rule of the Empire is brutal, unfair, and unforgiving. At the same time, House Talon refuses to tolerate unsanctioned violence against any house that is cooperating with the leaders of House Talon. Because most Rexors don't actually know which minor houses are working with House Talon at any given point in time. Because most Rexors don't know which minor houses are actually working with House Talon at any point in time, most houses will ask for permission before conquering a lesser house. Otherwise, they could wind up at war with Soros itself. Once they seized Dragon City for themselves, House Talon was a minor house. Before they seized Dragon City and the seat of all Saurian power, House Talon was a minor house. They began their war as a small insurgent force, striking at the throat of an enemy in which they smelled weakness. House Necros had grown careless in their rule of the Saurian horde, and House Talon had fostered rivalries between House Serpentis and House Stellaris. When House Talon struck at the heart of the Empire, everyone else was too busy fighting to help. Today, the Talons have a reputation for being quick, decisive, forceful, and ruthless. When a ruler has the kind of power that House Talon currently has, they will often let their most selfish and most wasteful habits and urges start polluting their decisions. On Soros, such rulers are quickly eliminated by stronger, more effective competitors. House Talon has been in power for 500 years. So, what does that tell you? Titles are not something Rexors use to proclaim their power. If nobody knows your name, you have no power. Titles are not. If nobody knows your name, you have no power. Right now, the most powerful Rexor of House Talon is known even to humans. While her name doesn't exactly translate into our language, we call her Grim. While she has no title, and while she will never need one, she is for all intent and purpose the Empress of the Saurian Horde. House Serpentis. When House Necros was in power on Soros, House Serpentis was constantly searching for an opportunity to undermine that power and to seize Dragon City for themselves. When Talon started their insurrection, Serpentis was quick to back them in the hope of finding a weakness in their newfound rulers. But the Talons never trusted them. Just as soon as they were in power, the strongest telepaths in House Talon interrogated every last Rexor in House Serpentis in a test of loyalty. Those who failed the test were forced to fight one another in the pits for the entertainment of all Soros. Killing off the unloyal Rexors of House Serpentis in this manner took years, and House Talon took it as an opportunity to prove their patience and resolve. To this day, House Serpentis considers it a show of loyalty to attend the gladiatorial fights. At least to outsiders, they refer to House Talon's slow mass execution of their Rexors as the purification. In many ways, the present-day loyalty of House Serpentis to House Talon and the popularity of the gladiatorial fights came from those first few years in which House Talon solidified their hold on Soros. Was forged in those first few years during which House Talon solidified their hold on Soros. Of course, House Serpentis is in this for themselves. Behind closed doors, they are plotting to bring House Talon to its knees. While the most powerful Rexors of House Serpentis don't believe they could take on other houses without House Talon, they do think it might be possible to put Grimm in a position where House Serpentis is the real power behind the throne. Once they've done that, and once the other Saurians know they've done that, all the power of House Talon will belong to them. In many ways, House Serpentis are the bureaucrats of Soros and the Empire in general. While the houses don't necessarily divide themselves up into job descriptions and career paths, House Serpentis trains its Rexors and Undersors to handle the logistics of the Empire on behalf of House Talon, just as they did for House Necros. By doing all the work that House Talon would rather not do, they discover their secrets. If they deliver all the mail, metaphorically speaking, they get to read it first. Because they've been doing this for so many centuries, since long before House Talon came to power. House Serpentis also has the best historians. They know, for example, what's buried in the ruins on which Dragon City now stands. Somewhere in House Serpentis still has the plans from which each version of that city was built. Old Saurian religions, old Saurian technology. Who knows what secret from eons past could become the key to seizing power today or tomorrow or 100 years from now. For this reason, House Serpentis keeps very thorough records. House Dragon. For tens of thousands of years, House Dragon has been the weaponsmith for whoever commands the Empire. In the passing centuries, that role has expanded to include the construction of their fighters, their motherships, and their engines of war. Dragon space fighters got their name from the house that built them. Of course, engineering isn't the only focus of House Dragon. Saurian shipyards have been built from one end of the galaxy to the other. Entire worlds are strip mined in order to fuel the war against the Loom and the rest of the galaxy. As much as possible, House Dragon oversees everything from resource gathering to security. Doing so keeps the ruling house impressed, and it keeps House Dragon focused on the things they're best at. For this very reason, it was House Dragon that invaded Earth in 2058. Most of the Undersor pilots and technicians that fly Dragon space fighters and Saurian motherships were bred and trained by House Dragon. They use and train their undersource to operate and maintain the machines they build. And then they sell them to House Talon as spare parts. Most of the undersource who are not used in this way wind up working in the mines of House Dragon or as laborers in the shipyards, so becoming a pilot or a technician is the best possible outcome for the undersource of House Dragon. House Stellaris. Once a minor house in the distant past, House Stellaris has built themselves up by colonizing worlds outside the Empire. By finding natural resources and seizing them by any means necessary, House Stellaris has made themselves more and more um, more and more vital to the Empire. Over the centuries. When the natural resources of Soros were used up, several major houses on Soros united to seize the power and property of House Stellaris. House Stellaris responded by refusing to deliver resources to Soros until those other houses were destroyed. When the natural resources of Soros were used up, several major houses on Soros united to seize the power and property of House Stellaris. House Stellaris responded by refusing to deliver resources to Soros until those other houses were destroyed. House Cataclysm united with House Necros, who was then the ruler, to wipe those houses out. When the war was over, House Stellaris resumed trade with Soros, and House Serpentis flourished. Never again has a Saurian house questioned the status and power of House Stellaris. Known throughout the Empire as explorers, Stellaris seeks out any natural resource they believe will have value on Soros or on other heavily developed worlds. They bring their motherships in, and they begin harvesting those resources without any concern for the environments they destroy. While Stellaris Rexors love to accept credit for their visionary efforts in colonizing exactly the right worlds to expand their power base, it's actually the House's underscore scouts who do most of the work. Trained to be the best in the Empire, Stellaris underscore scouts scour the galaxy for the resources to keep Soros alive. In addition, Stellaris is known to have scouts spying on these lower houses, who strive to beat Stellaris at their own game. When a lower house makes a discovery that promises to change their status within the Empire, there's always the risk that Stellaris motherships will show up to blow them off whatever planet they've just discovered. Some lower house will even hand their discoveries over to Stellaris in the hopes that they'll get farther by supporting a major house than they will by trying to work around them. All right, I need to go AFK for just a minute and use the bathroom. I will be right back. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Let's just make sure this is actually working. Test, 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 test. Okay. Test. Let me move this out of the way so I can see the actual test, test, test. Okay. There we go. All right. House Cataclysm. Like House Necros, House Serpentis, and House Dragon, House Cataclysm has been a power player on Soros since long before the planet was mined out and ruined. Unlike these other houses, House Cataclysm has never been very good at biding their time or showing restraint. In the early days, House Cataclysm managed to seize control of Dragon City more than once. Every single time, They've been brought low by their own sadistic lust for power, and always by a more cunning foe. House Cataclysm is the house where Rexors behave in exactly the way a human might expect an alien Tyrannosaurus Rex to behave. They murder and rampage because they love it. They take what they want, and they don't really care who's watching. They're bloodthirsty. While that makes them dangerous, it can also make them useful. If a ruler can keep House Cataclysm happy, then they will fight hard for their ruler. Better yet, they'll fight without regard for personal safety. House Serpentis realized this about House Cataclysm very early on, and they've urged both House Necros and House Talon not to overlook their usefulness. I'm just going to make sure I actually can hear myself. Test. Okay, that's better. Now I feel secure. While House Cataclysm has the scariest warlords by far, they're not actually the best fighters. What House Cataclysm excels at, however, is training undersor exterminators. Nobody hates humans like a Cataclysm exterminator. When the undersors of House Cataclysm exterminate an infestation of humans, or any other pest for that matter, they fight with everything they've got. They fight to the very last undersor. They almost always win. While the Rexor warlords of House Cataclysm might not be the best warriors, they do live for victory. Nothing brings them more joy than winning, and they never shy away from using excessive force. If defeating an enemy means burning a planet to cinders, they will not hesitate. If they can meet that enemy on the battlefield, even better. House Talon keeps their relationship with House Cataclysm strong by constantly picking fights with the Loom. So long as they don't run out of robots to smash, Cataclysm will always remain loyal to Talon. House Necros. When Talon seized power, House Serpentis scuttled the surviving leadership of House Necros out of the city. Of course, they planned to use them against House Talon at some point in the future. During the purification, those members of House Serpentis who helped House Necron escape were discovered and forced to fight and die as gladiators. Pridefully, House Serpentis assumed that their telepaths would defeat the telepaths of House Talon, and that plan backfired on them. House Talon was prepared to rule, and House Serpentis paid the price for underestimating them. None of the Rexors who died in the fighting pits of Soros ever gave up the location of the Necros survivors. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't know. Maybe they possessed the will to keep from giving up the one secret that they could help bring Serpentis into power. In either case, they took those secrets to the grave. I need a sip. All right. What has House Necros been up to in all that time? Nobody knows for sure. But everyone has a theory to share. By far the most popular theory is that they're thriving in the ruins under Dragon City, or in the abandoned mines of Soros. Part of the problem is that I'm not wearing my glasses. That they're plotting to rise up and wipe out the Talon. Many believe they've fled the planet, and that they've built their own empire in the dark reaches of the void. Some houses have even sent underscore scouts out there to find them. Some believe they've just blended in with other houses, and that the line of Necros has fizzled out. Others believe that they've embedded themselves in other houses, and that they have kept their organization alive, and that they're manipulating events and biding time until Soros is ripe for rebellion. Forgot about that. Because as we know, Soros is ripe for rebellion. Even now. Even now. All right. So good. I like the houses supplements. Nope. So you can see there's a lot of material for. Okay, here we go. This one I think we're going to need to work on. Undersor character creation. Oh, thank you so much. Ippy Looney got me English toffee with milk chocolate. Those little caramels, the little salty caramels, aren't gluten free. Wow. Do better, Trader Joe's. Preface. It's important to say up front that undersors are a people who are forced into labor against their will. By any definition, that is slavery. Everything the Saurian Horde has built, they have built through forced exploitation. If you have ever had any questions about whether there were some things about the Saurian Horde worth protecting or defending, let those questions be answered now. No, the Saurian Horde is bad. The only way for the Saurian Horde to thrive and sustain itself will be for the Rexors to let go of the power they hold, to support the Undersors in developing a role for themselves in society according to the ways in which they define their own potential, and to keep supporting the Undersors as they realize that thousands of years of oppression had them underestimating what that potential really was. For the Rexors, every other version of the future ends in violence and failure. Finding a way to organize themselves, to share information, and to mount a resistance while under the tyranny of telepaths is going to be hard for the Undersors, but they'll do it. They'll find a way. As the Rexors grow more wasteful and more bold in their power, they'll create more waste, more places to hide, more ways to undermine their authority. Being raised as laborers denies the Undersors their autonomy, and the willingness of the Rexors to use telepathy against them denies them any their privacy. But heroes do not see themselves as victims, and neither should we. Playing an Undersor is something we should only ever do if we are telling a story about fighting for freedom against oppressive systems of power. There should be a long discussion during this game's Session 0 about the boundaries between the storyteller and the hero when playing with Undersors. Just the idea of being forced into servitude is emotionally and thematically intense. Just the idea of a telepathic Tyrannosaurus Rex who thinks they own you is emotionally, thematically intense. Is a lot to digest. This gameplay is not an opportunity to abuse players emotionally. This is not an opportunity to explore deliberate parallels to humanity's history with slavery, no matter how well intentioned those storytelling efforts may be, because the systems and tools used in that history were inherently dehumanizing. Moreover, we do not force characters to do things that are beyond their control, not through telepathy and not by any other means. What we can explore with these characters is the mental discipline and the willingness to take action demanded by heroism, no matter who that hero is. Our Undersors are heroes, and so are we. Our Undersors are heroes. When we're playing an Undersword, just like when we're doing anything else in life, it's important. Just as we are heroes. Just as we are heroes. Make your very best Velociraptor sound and then write that sound phonetically. That is the name of your Undersword. Picking a house. Most Saurians would tell you that Underswords are just Rexors who were not cultivated as eggs. But the truth is that Rexors are Underswords who have been genetically modified and bred for violence. In any case, the same blood blows through the veins of an Undersword that pumps through a Rexor's heart. Every Undersword is born into a house, and the genes and the culture of that house have a profound effect on the person that Undersword grows up to be. Pick a house from the list in Datadeck 23 major houses of the Saurian Horde. And make a note of it. Picking your character's age. Underswords live just about as long as humans do. You can play an Undersword of any age so long as that character is older than 5 years old. How old is your Undersword? Your character starts with 1 die in body, heart, mind, and spirit. Before you add any more dice to your character, find your age on the chart below and roll the corresponding number of dice. In addition to this, no. Find your age. Oh. Just like with human children, Underswords grow and mature with age. Your Undersword's body dice are limited by how old they are according to the following chart. 10, 20. And just like with human characters, Underswords have their sense of spirit driven from them as they grow older. The number of spirit dice your character has is limited by their age. Your character's mind and heart are limited to 8 dice apiece. Step 5, Virtues. Living under the rule of the Rexors over time will slowly strip away an Undersor's sense of who they are and what they can do. Find the line with your age group on the chart below and assign your character all the virtues associated with your house that are on or above that line. Find the or below. No, actually, this is cool. For some reason, I thought this was going to be dumb. You know what? We got to do the same thing we did before. We got to go get the extra body dice. And we can do that. That's not a problem. So that was in, what was that in? Adult characters. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Okay. Okay. This is going to take me a minute, but we got this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 10. 10 dice. Okay. Insert row below. Eight rows below. Okay. $31. 40. 41 through 50. Through 60. 61 through 70. 71 through 80. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 81 through 90. 91 through 100. 101 through 110. Okay. And we just need to pull this out just a little bit. We want the table attributes, table properties. Row, column. Just a little bit wider. Here, that's all we needed. Okay. Now, copy. Let's see here. Okay. Copy. Now, we go into here. Oh, nope. Dang it. Okay. You know what it is that when I use undo, as a quick thing in OBS, it actually undoes the copy and paste of the file itself. So that's a little annoying. Underscore character creation. All right. Let's just go over here. Properties. Underscore character creation. All right. Table properties. And row. No. It's just so minimum row height. Okay, so we just go here now. Paste. No. Incorrect. See, I did it again. I did it again. Properties. Okay. Okay. What a mess. Just a mess. Okay. Now, copy. And back over here. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and go into table properties and the row. Minimum row height. Okay, that's about what that should be. Okay. Delete row. Okay. Delete row. I think we're in good shape here. Now, let's just close this down. I'm going to open up that file and see if it's stuck. I would like to think that it did. It's a little bit messy. Okay. Okay. I am just going to clean this up on the online thing. And on the actual website. And it should be good enough. Okay. Let's clean all this up too. Clean all this up too. Okay. That about does it. That about does it. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so let's just go ahead and delete these rows because they don't have any other benefits. And that, I think, is it. Let's go back over here. We're just going to reload all of this. Or let's just interact with it and see if it loads it in. No, but it's working. It's totally working. All right, maximums. Okay, and just like humans, undersource have their son. Okay, we need to get rid of that. Ah, that's better. Is limited by their age. Characters' mind and heart are limited to 8 dice apiece. Living under the rule of Xors over time will slowly strip away an undersourced sense of who they are and what they can do. Find the line with your age group on the chart below, and assign your character all the virtues associated with your house that are on or below that line. Step 6, training. Obviously, undersourced do not generally get to choose what they learn over the course of a lifetime. To begin with, give your character to start with. Undersourced training. Then, for every decade that your character has been alive, roll 1 die. In other words, okay. With each consecutive roll, assign your character the training that corresponds with the result according to the following chart. If you should receive the same training more than once, then you may choose a training that reflects a nuance or specific element of what you have learned. For example, if you receive arena fighting more than once, then your second training should be swords or wrestling. Step 7. rounding out your character. In addition to the points you've assigned, you can give your character 2 dice of additional strengths within the limits of the maximums. One additional virtue that reflects. No. You can give your character 1 additional virtue that reflects the core of your character. Let it be virtue that drives your undersword through everything they fought. Through everything they've survived. Obviously, these character creation rules are limiting, but so is the life of an undersword. Your job in playing this character is to see what you can do with circumstances life has dealt to with the circumstances to your hero. Use your virtues and your training to your advantage. Even if at first glance they seem to be less useful than you'd like, play to your strengths as well as your strengths. In order to achieve the goals your character has set before themselves. Above all, remember to play. Jump Rangers is never a game about hurting people. Jump Rangers is a game about empowering ourselves by empowering others. Find a way to do this. And your undersword's value adventure will quickly transform into a story about finding hope in dire circumstances. I think this is great. Okay. Done and done. We like this. Sold. Now, let's get on with the next one. How are we doing? 5:52, 6 o'clock. We are almost at the end of the stream. We are 3/4 of the way through the stream. We are cooking with gas, folks. This is very encouraging. And we're going to be adding so many 2.0 files and, reviewed files to the Google Drive. I feel great about this. Okay. Let's cook on over here. House Necros properties. That was the file that I had up before from the for the major houses file was what was up a second ago. All right, let's put that up. Let's go ahead and grab that, interact, and scoot over here. Undersource shadows are undersource assassins. We talked about these earlier. These are the people that they send to kill people when they don't want anybody to know that they were doing it. When the undersource houses try to kill other undersource houses. Undersource assassins trained by major Saurian houses to assassinate rival Rexors. Part of the reason undersource shadows are so successful in their work is that most Rexors could never imagine being killed by an undersword to begin with. For a Rexor to be killed by an undersword would be an unthinkable dishonor. House Talon and the other houses that use shadows to do their dirty work have kept the existence of these assassins a secret. If the truth were revealed that the most notable houses were using underswords to kill their rivals, that show of disrespect and weakness could unite the lesser houses against them. Because they must never be captured and interrogated, undersword shadows are extremely well trained and well prepared. Most undersword shadows don't even know. Most underswords don't even know that shadows exist. So this isn't the kind of job that underswords aspire to. When underswords are recruited to be shadows, their deaths are faked. They leave their old lives behind to train and kill in service to their house. Body 8 dice, heart 1 die, mind 4 dice, spirit 1. Clever, lethal, loyal, silent. Yeah. Combat, disguise, improvisation, Saurian training, spycraft. We can get rid of Saurian training. No, that's right. That's right. Spycraft, stealth, undersword martial arts. I think it's right. I think this is right. Easily concealed. These daggers vibrate at damage +3. That's it. Combat, disguise, improvisation. We'll say shadow training. They're a lot like Jump Rangers. Spycraft, stealth, undersword, martial arts. That's it. That's all we had to do. Excuse me. Undersword Shadow. It's important to have those stats on hand, I think. Grim. The next one is the leader of the Saurian Empire. So, properties. And interact. House Talon is one of the most powerful, is the most powerful of the major houses within the Saurian Horde. They rule Soros not because the other houses allowed them to, but because the other houses are too afraid to try and stop them. Doing what House Talon says is always a better option than invoking their fury. Within House Talon, Grim is the undisputed leader for exactly the same reason. Failing to do what Grim says guarantees a short and scary life, followed by a long and painful death. Ruling with that kind of fear allows a person to do pretty much whatever they want, at least until someone comes along who can actually stop you. If you know your Saurian history, then you know some rulers of the Horde have let their power make them stupid, lazy, or reckless. Grim is none of these things. Her calculating approach to expanding the Empire ensures that most of the other houses profit more by supporting House Talon than by opposing it. If a house isn't exactly thriving under Talon's rule, then Grim's fearsome ruthlessness keeps that house too scared to think about opposing her. Her ultimate desire is to be the greatest leader in Saurian history. Grim's goal is nothing less than to sear her name into the mind of every Saurian for the next 10,000 years. The Loom offer her a strong foe against which she can forge such a legacy. Crushing them once and for all would provide her with the victory she seeks, and the truth is she might just be the Rexor who can actually do it. Body 12 dice, heart 2 dice, mind 12 dice, spirit 13 dice. Brilliant, fierce, heightened senses, merciless. We can get rid of fierce. Yeah. Brilliant, heightened senses, merciless, psychic. Ruthless is another synonym. Scary, strong. She's scary. Combat, farseeing, investigation, killing, leadership, predicting things. Yeah. Just gonna get rid of those. Combat, farseeing, investigation, killing, leadership, Saurian politics, Saurian horde, strategy. We don't need Saurian politics. We're cutting these down because we've scaled back on a lot of the stuff. We've scaled back on a lot of the stuff in writing the 2.0. She doesn't need to be quite so huge. But I do like that she has a spirit of 13 dice. Heightened senses, merciless, scary, strong, psychic, scary, strong. Combat, farseeing, investigation, killing, leadership. Saurian horde, strategy, tactics, telepathy, She doesn't need telepathy either. Weapons. Disruptor Cannon, Sonication Teeth, Sonication Claws. Oh no, she does need telepathy. What am I saying? Ah, I did it again. Of course she needs telepathy. Okay. Okay. There we go. So yeah, we'll put telepathy back in there because of course yes. Because I was thinking of telekinesis. I got them confused. I'm getting a little weary. Weapons. Mounted on either side of a Rexor Warlord's battle armor, the Disruptor Cannons face forward. This is all normal stuff. We're just going to make sure that we have the Warlord's actual gear. So let me copy that out of the book. Chapter 5, Chapter 6. Rexor Warlord. Okay. I'll just paste that right in there. Sold. I love her. I think she's awesome. And I wouldn't pick a fight with her. All right. Next file. There's a lot of these files. Oh, it's the minor houses file. I love it. And then we have one more, I think. We had a big like Saurian sprint for a couple months there. This is the minor houses, and then we have the role playing with telepathy ethics page, which is also good. Let's take a look at this. Minor houses of the Saurian Horde. I love it. I really have done a lot for this game. Not every house of the Saurian Horde is big enough to be established as an interplanetary nation reaching out across the stars. Some houses are struggling to survive. Some houses have big plans to expand, but they don't have what they need to pull it off. Some houses like the stability that comes with serving houses with more worlds and more wealth than they do. In the Saurian Horde, there are hundreds of houses at least. There might even be thousands of different houses out there among the stars. Here we're going to talk about a few of the minor houses. Please feel free to make up your own. More than anything, the houses we talk about in this data deck are meant to serve as examples of what minor houses are like and what they're capable of. House Creech is that one Saurian house that keeps struggling to do amazing things and then gets bullied by the major houses into giving up whatever it is they've managed to achieve. Just like people, some Saurians respond to being bullied by becoming wiser and more aware of how they affect other people, although in the Saurian Horde, that kind of self-awareness is rare. More commonly, Saurians lose themselves in their fantasies of power and revenge, become more and more impatient for the day when they heap all the abuse they've suffered onto someone else. House Creech gives us a classic example of how bullying teaches people to be cruel. In the history of the Jump Rangers universe, Creech is the house that first invaded planet Rock in Chapter 8 of the Jump Rangers core book. Despite the fact that the Rockman people have done nothing to the Saurians, House Creech is fully prepared to dominate the planet and exterminate its people. All they're hoping is that the planet will give them enough resources and power to hold over the houses that have traditionally abused them. Planet Rock isn't the first discovery that House Creech has made. Undersource scouts from House Creech are constantly scouring the galaxy for something they can use to become power players on Soros, and they've actually gotten pretty good at it. Most houses agree that Creech trains the best scouts in the Empire, which is why House Stellaris has shadows embedded in House Creech, keeping an eye on what their scouts are doing. If House Creech manages to find something that can change the balance of power on Soros, it won't be long before Stellaris motherships show up to take it from them. House Christ. Do you have one friend who will do anything, no matter how reckless or harmful, to prove themselves to a bully or abuser? Such a person can wind up breaking laws, they'll wind up putting themselves in the hospital, and they'll turn the whole community against them for the sake of one pretty terrible person's approval. When a person is trapped in this mindset, betrayal and abuse only seems to make them work harder. House Christ is a minor Saurian house that has built their entire plan for success on the basic assumption that abusers will give you power if you just work hard enough. House Talon doesn't have time to play games with desperate Rexors. So the Talons ignore House Christ. House Serpentis has stepped in to become the authority figure House Christ is looking for. All of the battles House Serpentis doesn't want to fight, and all of the dirty business they don't want to deal with gets dumped on House Christ. Dutifully, House Christ performs these tasks in the hope that House Serpentis will someday reward them with power and prestige. If any Rexor of House Christ ever dares to ask House Serpentis for the favors they are owed, House Serpentis will remind House Christ that standing in her shadow is reward enough. House Siska. No Saurian house wants to be in charge of handling their own garbage, and House Siska has risen to prominence as one of the more powerful minor houses by taking that responsibility off their hands. In every major port or city, from one side of the empire to the other, House Siska is piloting trash barges and hauling waste. This is not a job Siska cares about all that much, and it's not a job they do particularly well. In Intel File Runaways, we explain that vulture garbage rafts pick up the trash from Saurian cities and outposts, fly it out over the wasteland, and dump it just far enough away that nobody will complain. Eventually, these dumping sites become toxic trash swamps. Siska maintains and expands its power by relying on the simple fact that nobody cares how well they do their job as long as it gets done. Having built up their authority as the Empire's disposal experts, the Rexors of House Siska are always ready to help when another house needs to make incriminating evidence, like dead bodies of murdered Rexors, for example, disappear. Offering big promises about secrecy and then demanding a very hefty price, the Rexors of House Siska will usually just dump the offending materials on a vulture and send them out to the trash swamps. If you're wandering around the trash swamps of a Saurian world, you can uncover all kinds of buried secrets. House Viper. House Viper is a well-organized gang of pirates and terrorists within the Saurian Empire. Living in the unwatched corners of the galaxy, House Viper launches desperate attack after desperate attack on the major houses. Their hope is that one of these attacks will generate enough chaos and confusion to upset the balance of power and allow them to seize control of the Empire. While House Viper Rexors keep themselves busy assaulting motherships and outposts on the fringe of Saurian space, their underswords get sent on suicide missions to blow up targets on Soros and other centers of Saurian activity. For House Viper, the ends justify the means. They've been pushed outside the walls of Saurian society and they're going to claw their way back in by any means necessary. Of course, the rest of the Empire makes it their business to kill any members of House Viper on sight. For this reason, makes it their business to kill members of House Viper on sight. We'll just delete the any, it's a little confusing. For this reason, House Viper makes their bases and mining facilities left behind by other houses on planets no other Rexor would ever want to live on. No Rexor would ever want to live on. In the abandoned wrecks of motherships, and basically any place the rest of the Empire is actively trying to forget. Because House Dragon would never do business with House Viper has to steal their motherships from other houses. Boarding and seizing motherships, piracy in other words, is the best way for Rexors to earn honor and fame in House Viper. By far, the most common tactic is to seize an outpost belonging to another house. When the outpost itself is safely under Viper control, they'll lure motherships in with the promise of ore and other supplies. Once a mothership has docked, the Viper Rexors will storm the ship and murder everyone inside. While their tactics are cowardly by the standards of other Rexors, the Vipers fight with a ferocity that surprises their victims. After all, they're fighting to survive. Without motherships and resources, House Viper will cease to exist. Unless they can destabilize the Empire, they have no hope for a future. Nobody in the colonies really knows whether House Viper represents the best or the worst of the Saurian horde, but there is one thing we do know. They have nothing left to lose, and that makes them dangerous. Those are minor houses in the Saurian horde. And now, we're going to talk a little bit about consent and playing with telepathy, because that is a challenge. And I figured, rather than just let people go out there and create havoc, making mistakes and hurting people along the way, we'd offer some guidelines. Take a little leadership here. Building good community is about leadership. One thing that I've learned from Star Citizen, I mean, Star Citizen is a game about literal space Nazis. If there's one game that would and should be vulnerable to the Reddit chat rooms that are in so many ways, appropriating and taking geek culture in dangerous directions, it would be a game dependent on crowdfunding and about space Nazis, but they are so conscious about the leadership they provide to the community and the information about the community they're building and the rules and guidelines that they enforce that it hasn't fallen to that kind of influence yet, and I don't think it will. And that is an example that I intend to follow. This is one of the ways that I do it. It's just by when I introduce tricky stuff, I say here's some support tools. Here's how you can use this in your game without hurting people. Datadeck File, storytelling with telepathy. In the very first chapter that was written on playing Jump Rangers, the tabletop role-playing game, Chapter 1 of the Jump Rangers core book, we talked about consent as the foundation of a positive and healthy role-playing experience. Taking away a hero's free will or the free will of any other character is against the rules of Jump Rangers. Doing that abuses the power we have over one another as players and storytellers. Abusing power is unkind and unfun. Consequently, we do not do it. How then do we roleplay in a universe that includes telepathy as a power that some characters have? Doesn't telepathy pretty much directly involve taking control of other people? Don't the Rexors control the Undersource? How does this even work? That's what we're talking about in this week's data deck. Living in a dream world. In the universe of Jump Rangers, free will is not something a character can alter or manipulate. Instead, characters with telepathy can try to change or corrupt the information characters are receiving from their senses. In essence, you can try to alter the ways in which a character perceives reality. You can make them see and hear things that aren't there. You can use their own senses against them. While you can't make a character do something they don't want to do, you can lie to them through their own senses. In this way, you can try and manipulate them into doing what you want. Of course, manipulating another person's reality can very easily lead them to question whether or not something is wrong. Be subtle and careful in how you manipulate people because the existence of telepathy is not a secret. If you manipulate another person's mind too hard or too fast, they'll realize they're being manipulated. When they understand what's happening to them, they'll start looking for you. Telepathy is a chance, to a small degree, to let your characters become the storytellers for another hero. Be creative, be clever, role play with other characters, use your virtues, training, and strengths to shape another character's environment and lead them to the decisions you want them to make. Don't let yourself get bogged down by how easy a given scene would be if you could just make another character do what you want them to do. This is a game. Remember to play and don't let yourself get too hung up on the outcome. Telepathy and the Saurian Horde. Most Rexors are trained in manipulating the senses of Undersours. Experienced Rexors are casting impressions, manipulations, and lies out to the minds of all the Undersours in their area at the same time. Through the telepathic broadcasting of their Rexor, most of the Undersours in any given house wind up experiencing pretty much the same misperceptions. For this reason, the lies of Rexors feeding their Undersours can be very, very easy to believe. After all, the Undersours are all experiencing the same lies. Typically, the manipulations experienced by an Undersour pertain to the Rexor who commands them and the environment in which they live. Rexors love to make themselves seem more vicious, fearsome, and intelligent than they already are. Rexors like to create the impression that Undersours are constantly being watched, so they live in fear of making even the smallest mistake. Rexors love to fill the heads of Undersours with terrifying sounds and smells that disappear when the Rexor is around. Of course, this makes the Rexor's presence seem like the hope of safety an Undersour seem like the only hope of safety an Undersour has. Because every Rexor has their own style of telepathic manipulation, it is considered rude and dishonorable to broadcast telepathy to the Undersours of another Rexor. When a Rexor is a guest in another house, the polite thing to do is to stop sending out broad telepathic signals and to only communicate with the Undersours in your entourage. Because the telepathic signals of Rexors can be so vastly different from one another, and can be disturbing and scary for an Undersour to spend time around a new Rexor. Spending time with more than one Rexor at the same time is even worse if both of those Rexors are sending thoughts to their Undersours. Plenty of Undersours are emotionally, mentally, and spiritually crushed by living in such an oppressive society, but plenty more adapt and grow into their power. Keeping your identity and your mind healthy are huge challenges when your own senses are lying to you. Meeting those challenges every day can make an Undersour formidable and strong. Hello, my love. Is it candy? I'm not going to eat any tonight. I'll have some tomorrow, so you go right ahead and help yourself. Be careful with your teeth, though. Maybe open it with scissors. You want me to take the trash off your hands? Okay. My wife got me English toffee. And now my wife is eating English toffee. Jump Rangers is a game, and our whole mission in creating this game is to inspire play. Powers like telepathy should be used to inspire play and not to simply dominate the story. Try to outwit the other characters. Try to outthink them. By all means, try to outplay them. Don't try to control them, because doing so takes the fun out of the experience, for them at least. Whether or not it seems that way, taking the fun out of the game for other people will always diminish the game for ourselves as well. That's a good thing to have written. Okay. Ipiluni got marshmallows too, I see. All right. 616. We're trucking along. Oh, we have one more Saurian thing. There's a couple of Saurian planets that I've thrown in here. This is one of my favorites. All right. Properties. I am increasingly fond of OBS. Planet Cinder. Interact. In the wreckage of an exploded planet, House Dragon of the Saurian Horde has built the biggest and most successful mining, refining, and shipbuilding operation in the galaxy. We'll just say in the galaxy. Humans call it Ember City because even after hundreds of years, the shattered remains of this planet are still glowing and radiating heat. The shattered remains of this planet's core are still glowing and radiating heat. Dragon's Nest, Ember City, exploded planet. Because the most safe and accessible resources of the Saurian Empire are always the most tightly controlled, new houses come to power in the Horde by taking big risks. For tens of thousands of years, House Dragon has been the pillar of industry and shipbuilding for the Saurian Horde. Building Ember City was the risk that made that happen. Before the planet was shattered, Saurians had a colony on Planet Cinder. When a star devourer made planetfall and the planet destabilized, the major houses evacuated. Still a minor house at the time, House Dragon started taking over the abandoned mining operations. By the time the planet finally blew up, House Dragon had established a strong foothold in the system. Using their stolen resources, House Dragon built a mining colony that stretched between the broken pieces of the shattered planet's remains. Of the shattered world. Hunks of broken hunks of. How many words are there for planet? Hunks of broken planet orbit cinder star. And a glowing cluster of embers, vapors, and crust. Hidden between the chunks Hidden between the asteroids by smoke and clouds, the city is built in clusters of big black metal balls covered in ominous antennae and red lights connected by conduits and superstructure. While the cloud of dust makes the city more like a web of shadows than an actual living space, the dust itself is very bright. After all, the hunks of planets surrounding the city are always glowing. Ember City is a sight to see for sure. Originally, Ember City was a mining colony, busily harvesting materials and octonium from the exposed mantle and the planet core of the exploded planet. Fueled by the extraordinary success of their mining operations, House Dragon learned to use the ore, the octonium, the weightlessness, and even the natural lighting of Ember City to build motherships. Soon enough, Ember City was the biggest shipyard in the Empire. Major houses started relying on House Dragon for their relentless ability to turn out starships, raw materials, and the other things that industry provides. The wealth and prominence of House Dragon spread quickly across the stars, and Planet Center became a stronghold of the Saurian horde. Today, Ember City is a looming latticework of spheres and struts that connects several of the shattered pieces of Planet Cinder, and which supports thousands of space docks where motherships are constantly under construction. Unlike most of the human colonies built into Saurian space structures, Dragon's Nest is not hidden away from the station's garbage disposal system. Most of the trash gets dumped out over the molten chunks of Planet Cinder, and the inner workings of the station are too hot for human habitation in those areas. Instead, the humans living in Ember City have made their home by plumbing of the primary Rexor quarters. While building a base right under the noses of the Rexors is certainly dangerous, it does ensure that humans don't need to survive the same harsh conditions to which the Rexors subject their undersors. Making sure the plumbing is always working means that undersors never have any need to do maintenance, so the humans of Dragon's Nest have gotten very good at maintaining Saurian pipes. Undersors are required to inspect the plumbing on a strict routine, and the colonists are careful to keep the sights, sounds, and smells of the colony disguised, or at least enough to fool the inspectors. Formerly a regular of the Jump Rangers, Egglesly Raphael is the governor of Dragon's Nest. Egglesly is the person responsible for founding Dragon's Nest as a colony. Before Egglesly, a handful of attempts had been made to colonize other parts of the station. Either they needed too much power to keep cool and they were showing up on the sensor sweeps, or they were too close to undersor activity to stay hidden. While Ember City is an old structure, and while parts of it have been around for hundreds or even thousands of years, it's not really neglected. Ember City takes a lot of work to keep running. When it comes to maintaining their base of power within the Empire, House Dragon isn't careless or lazy. As a result, there aren't a lot of places in Ember City to hide out in. In the Saurian Empire, humans can only really hide in spaces where undersors refuse to go. In Ember City, the only place no undersor wants to be is right under the noses of their Rexors. Of course, it took a Jump Ranger to see that problem as an opportunity. Let's go ahead and capitalize Jump Ranger. Building Dragon's Nest and keeping it hidden has been largely a matter of masking the smells that come with any human settlement. For this reason, Egglesly decided to build the base into the plumbing. By tapping into the pipes, the human colonists have access to all the smelly waste they need to make sure no undersor ever suspects the existence of a human colony. All the entrances to Dragon's Nest are hiding in pools of Saurian sewage or behind pouring waterfalls, while the stench of Saurian waste must always be strong enough to hide the people living behind those walls. It can never get so strong that the undersors decide they need to fix something. Egglesly calls this balance ask musk maintenance. In the decades since founding Dragon's Nest, Egglesly has married Dr. Lorna Raphael and settled into a happy life as the leader of Dragon's Nest. Someday soon, a new governor will be chosen. Egglesly is getting old and ready to retire, but they won't leave their post before they know the colonists are in good hands. Brave, clever, experienced, observant. I'll just delete the brave. We don't want this to be too intense. Basic training, combat, intuition, invisibility. Saurian horde, Saurian language, Saurian starships, stealth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's fine. That's good. That's good. Yep. Very good. So, on to the next one. We started on number 11. Way there. I really enjoy your stream, so I decided to follow you. Thank you, Oprah. Thank you very much. I appreciate you following us along. Um, what you can do, I'm careful with who I actually friend up in Discord. But what I will say is, please feel free to join the Jump Rangers Discord server. You can find that information uh, just below the, you know what I'm saying, just below the stream. We've got Jump Rangers Discord right there. So please feel free to join us. It'd be great to have you in the conversation. And the other thing I will tell you is if you visit our coffee page, um, there's a table of contents. That table of contents will lead you to downloads. You can play the game for free. If you're interested in playing the Jump Rangers tabletop role playing game, it's right there for you. Nobody needs to, you know, nobody needs to buy in to actually start playing the game. All this supplementary material that we're talking about here, all of this stuff is what people get for subscribing. But I want to make sure people at least have access to the game itself. So please go right ahead and do that. And thank you. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. What have we here? Let's have a look. Properties, filters, interact. No, that's not what we need. Give me one sec here. We're bringing up the next file. I don't know what this one is. Misling culture. Misling culture. And I think that there's a little misling gadget in the next one. Misling culture. That's a good thing to have. This is something I might want to put in mice and mandibles. This might just belong in that supplement. All right. Here we go. In the first few pages of Intel File of Mice and Mandibles, the Barding Guild gets described as the organization responsible for stewarding misling culture. While it's possible that I've covered that concept with enough detail to get your gears turning, as a storyteller, I am a show person. I am a geek. I want to write about touring space knights who perform music at theater. So we're going to examine that concept a little more thoroughly. What is a guild, really? As a society, mislings place a lot of importance on expertise as a foundation for how things get done. As institutions, guilds are the keepers of expertise in misling culture. In some ways, the existence of guilds is a big part of how the mislings have survived and thrived both before and after the invasion. So, what are mislings? If anybody's watching for the first time, mislings are space mice. Like humans, they have colonies on board Saurian motherships, but they're in places where we can't get to, so we haven't discovered them yet. Intel File of Mice and Mandibles deals with the space mouse phenomenon, but Jump Rangers, like Voltron before us, like plenty of other science fiction things, we have lots of space mice. They are super cool. We're very proud of them. So that's what a mistling is. Um, they're from a planet called Planet Mist. There's a whole backstory there. We can get into it now if anybody has questions, or please read of Mice and Mandibles because I wrote it for people who love space mice. So thrived both before and after the invasion of the Saurians, and the spore bugs forced the Mislings to abandon their homeworld. In other ways, guilds are very much a part of what holds Misling society back. In some ways, the existence of guilds is a big part of how the Mislings have survived and thrived both before and after the invasion of the Saurians, and the spore bugs forced the Mislings to abandon their homeworld. In other ways, guilds are very much a part of what holds Misling society back. What's frustrating about guilds as a concept is the gatekeeping. Every profession has a governing authority, and there is always a right way and a wrong way to do things. Mislings love being right, and having the authority and structure to know when they're doing things the way they're supposed to be done is comforting for most mislings. When a misling doesn't fit into that structured approach to living, that misling is probably a little more likely to join the nomads. What works about the guild system is the sense of community it brings to every profession in misling society. Having a support network is important in misling society. Guilds provide that through mentorship, through professional exchange, and by giving mislings a forum for exchanging their knowledge and comparing their experiences, having a is important in misling society. Guilds provide that through mentorship. Okay, starting to get tired. While all the guilds maintain a sense of authority when it comes to how things are done, none of the guilds are so oppressive that they care more about the guild itself than they care for its members. More than anything, having a guild is a lot like having a bossy, opinionated extended family. If you're in a guild, then there are sure to be others in the guild who believe they know what's right for you. Maybe they don't know you that well, and maybe they don't understand your capabilities, and their expertise and authority will inevitably still drive them to tell you what to do and how to be. On the other hand, those other guild mice do have experiences that you can learn from. What's more, most of them will genuinely care about your success in the guild. Is it a perfect system? No. Like most things in life, it's a trade off. For the Mistlings, it's one of the fundamental trade offs driving their society forward. What is culture? Culture, in the eyes of the Barding Guild, is any experience that Mistlings can choose to have in common. When people are born into a colony or a family, for example, that shared experience doesn't do much to build an understanding between them. Some families hate one another, right? If two people read the same book or go to the same performance, on the other hand, they start assuming things about one another based on that shared experience. If that person liked so and so, then maybe they'll understand this other thing. If that person liked the book that they read, if that person liked the book you shared with them, then maybe they'll understand this other thing. Maybe they'll appreciate this other somewhat related idea. Having that trust in other people is what allows a society to work together. So it's society's culture that provides the foundation for any kind of shared undertaking. Being the steward. In the Barding Guild, maintaining a strong culture that helps Mistlings work together is always the underlying goal of any creative undertaking. First and foremost, a Mistling Bard relies on the fundamentals of their craft to provide that foundation. If you go to see something excellent, and if you find yourself, I think we can just delete this what is culture thing. I understand that's a bit much. It's something I talk a lot about with clients. It's something I'm very passionate about. I don't think it's important to this particular subject matter. In the Barding Guild, maintaining a strong culture that helps Mistlings work together is always the underlying goal of any creative undertaking. First and foremost, a Mistling Bard relies on the fundamentals of their craft to provide that foundation. If you go to see something excellent, if you find yourself surrounded by people who like that same thing, who like that very same thing, then maybe those people will understand some of the things that you think are important. Or swear by. For Mistlings, that's a helpful and comforting no. For Mistlings, that's a helpful and comforting note about the society they live in. If you go to see something excellent, and if you find yourself surrounded by people who like that very same thing, then maybe those people will understand some of the other things you think or believe in or swear by. For Mistlings, that's a helpful and comforting thing to know about the society they live in. Most of the time, guild mice are contracted by nobles for specific jobs. If a noble mouse is trying to expand a colony, for example, then they might hire a mouse from the Barding Guild to help them build support for their plans. If the bard they hire isn't very imaginative, then they might just create some propaganda or try to sell that idea to the colony. If the bard has more creative vision, and if they have the support of the noble who hired them, then they'll more likely create something that brings together the established members of the community and the newcomers through a theme that relates to the community as a whole. By showing these people what they have in common, as well as how those shared commonalities the bard builds a foundation that help them work together. fosters. Most of the time, guild mice, okay, noble masters try to expand a colony, but they might try to hire a mouse from the barding guild to help them build support for their plans. If the bard is the hire isn't very imaginative, they might just create some propaganda to try to sell the idea. If the bard has more creative vision, and if they have the support of the noble mouse, the noble who hired them, the more likely create something that brings together the established members of the community. By showing these people what they have in common, the bard fosters relationships that help them work together on the noble's plans. What kind of art will a Mistling bard create? That depends on their expertise and the interest in the community they are serving. They might lead the community in a theater production or teach the people who live there a new dance or a new song. Often bards will create these new materials specifically for the will create new materials, new performances or art specifically for the communities they are visiting. While a bard is developing a performance with any given community, they will usually create. Okay. Mislings love to read. Every bard has a library full of files from the archives at the Barding College. Instead of sharing those files as data, bards will paint or carve the words on walls and other structures so mislings can read them. So every misling can read them. When the bard leaves, these paintings and carvings will be maintained and touched up by the community to preserve them for future generations. For mislings, reading is a public rather than a private activity. Most nobles will have a wall designed to display text of their choosing. Bards will always share their library files. Most nobles have a wall designed to display text for their own private reading. Digital text. Most nobles have a wall designed to display digital text for their own private reading, and bards will always share their library files with nobility. Less expensive versions of this technology might display the text on a matte finish, making it easy to read. More expensive displays can actually alter their texture and will display the text as a relief or a digital carving. Once the bard has left, the mislings the colony mislings will sing their new songs, tell their new stories, and dance the new dances they have learned. Mislings are active social beings. They don't just consume things other people made for them. They use and share those things as a society. Mislings do things together. I like it. Okay. Next up. Copy link. 6:39. We're almost done with the stream. Properties. Okay. So this is a little piece of gear. It's basically a chopper. It's a motorbike for mislings. I just wanted it to be just a fun little thing to add to the aesthetic of the game. Interact. Data file. Datadeck file. Mistling chariot. Like most of the technology manufactured by Mislings, the chariot is a hover bike crafted by hand with a sense of artistry out of materials that speak to the origins of the vehicle. Some chariots are made with finishings and elegant woods and leathers, whereas others will be made entirely out of scrap metal. No Mistling artisan would build such a device without engraving and finishing it in a manner that reflects their personal flourish and craft, however. Most chariots have an overall shape, have more or less like a road bike, with handlebars and hover pods at the front and the rear of the vehicle. Smaller, faster bikes will have one hover pod at the front and another at the rear, while bikes that are built to carry modest cargo will have the pods in pairs. Will have the pods arranged in pairs. For additional hover power. While the Chariot looks like it was built for hovering and gravity, which it is, it also functions very effectively in the low gravity of space. What Chariots can't do, however, is fly more than a few feet off the ground. Unless they're in the weightlessness of space, the hoverpods need a surface to push themselves away from. And then there's the notes on scale. Structure, 6 dice. But it's scaled. So we can give it 8 dice of structure. Hovering, precision, maneuvering, field, precision handling. I think that's great. No notes. Moving on. All right. Power struggles in the colonies. This is a deep one. But Tenny, how can you do deep content in Jump Rangers? I feel like we've already tackled that in this session. We talked about the Saurian horde and slavery. I think we've covered that, right? All right. In Chapter 1 of the Jump Rangers core book, some essential ground rules are established. So power struggles in the colonies. Some essential ground rules are established to help ensure the inclusiveness of Jump Rangers as a universe, as an intellectual property, and as a gaming experience. Because my goal is to establish Jump Rangers in all kinds of different media with the support of my internet community, and because the internet is full of arguments over who owns the right to see themselves in our culture, I think it's time I anchor my long-term vision of inclusion and accessibility in the lore of Jump Rangers. Before we do that, let me also say this. If failing to exclude women is feminist, then Jump Rangers is definitely feminist. If failing to exclude queer people is super queer, then Jump Rangers is definitely super queer. If failing to exclude black people makes Jump Rangers political, then Jump Rangers is very political. If failing to exclude trans people makes this project trans propaganda, perfect. Jump Rangers is trans propaganda. By all means, hang these labels on myself and my work. Directing hate away from people with less privilege than me and dealing with that hate myself makes me useful. If reading this data deck is making you feel angry or threatened, then I'm asking you and urging you to please take responsibility for those feelings and address them through personal growth. Remember the code. I wrote the Ranger's Code to be a system of living that any kid can benefit from, that will lead any person to grow and better themselves, and that will guide the heroes of our stories to have a positive impact on the world around them. You cannot live by the Ranger's Code and still support harmful systems of power. You can't be a Jump Ranger and hold hate or bigotry in your heart. Letting those things go is part of growing as a hero. In the Jump Rangers, we don't say good luck. Anyone can have good luck or bad luck. Good luck is for ordinary people, and you are not ordinary. In the Jump Rangers, we say go high and go far. Why is that? Because how high and how far you're willing to go is absolutely something you decide for yourself. I'm telling you to go higher and farther than you thought you could. Don't settle into your boundaries. Test them, push them, and break them open. Being at the right place at the right time can make a normal person into a hero for one brief, perfect moment. Jump Rangers need to be heroes every moment of every day because Jump Rangers are always looking for trouble. If you're not demanding those higher heights and farther distances from yourself, how can you expect to be what you need to be, or who you need to be, or where you need to be when it really, really counts? As Jump Rangers, we encourage the best in one another. We choose to believe in one another's capabilities. We support one another in striving to achieve our potential, both as individuals and as a team. When I say go high and go far, it's because I know you can do it. Culture and race. In the canon of Jump Rangers, the very first story opera opens in the year 2352. Our world is invaded by the Saurian horde in the year 2058. More than 30 years from now, humanity survives in tiny colonies, living as refugees for the next 300 years before before the Jump Rangers universe comes to life. is really underway. Even today, our cultures grow more diverse as our world gets smaller. When the Saurians invade and people are struggling to survive in clusters of just a few hundred to a few thousand, there will be no more room in our lives for bigotry. If someone knows how to make delicious food, then that person's food will become everyone's favorite food. If two people fall in love and want a baby, their community will support them out of pure necessity. In 2352, each colony then that baby. If someone wants to raise a baby, then people will let them do that work out of pure necessity. In 2352, we'll support them in that work. Their community accepts their love. If someone wants to raise a baby, what I did here, to be clear, is I separated child raising from the idea of gender. That's what I did. In 2352, each colony is a patchwork of cultural influences. Each colony is doing their best to preserve the memory of how things were on Earth. But our cultures have been bleeding together for more than 300 years. Nobody in the colonies is dividing people up into races because those distinctions have lost their meaning. Individual communities are doing their best to preserve the cultural heritage of those who came before, and those cultures were a mashup to begin with. When humanity was scrambling aboard the Saurian motherships in a mad rush to escape our homeworld, keeping families together was the most that people could hope to manage. Living as refugees can shatter a people's culture. In the wake of the Saurian invasion, any pieces of the world we lost are precious to us. Nobody cares which part of the world they came from. We'll just delete all this and put this there because I think that that's a little confusing. And this is less confusing. In the wake of the Saurian invasion, any pieces of the world we lost are precious to us. Nobody cares which part of the world they came from. All we really want really is a piece of home. Our world today is populated mostly by people of color. After 15 generations of human diaspora, it is certainly less common to see a white person than it was in the 21st century. Maybe I don't state that out loud. Maybe I just let it be a true in the art. Dang it. I hate that I do that. Okay. All right. Let me jump out and see here. Okay. I have gotten a ton of emails while I've been streaming. I wonder what's going on there. Power struggles in the colonies. Here we go. Okay. Take a note. Pin it. Put that there. All right. We're just going to put this back in there. close, and we'll just delete that. Now, we're in business. After 300 years of diaspora, just about anyone will tell you that nothing is more comforting than the sight of another human being. Gender in the colonies. With the development of medical nanotechnology, most medical procedures pose a much smaller risk to a patient than they do today, because gender reassignment is so much less invasive. And because people are far too busy to stay alive to get involved in the medical decisions of strangers, gender reassignment has lost all sense of controversy. Who has time to argue with another person's identity when undersore exterminators could be smashing through the door at any moment? Again, this is not a controversial notion. In 2352, this is a simple fact of life. If human beings can find their sense of decency and treat one another with respect and kindness, it can be a fact of life today. Like who you like, love who you love. Let me step back for a moment and remind everyone that our game is about children. Our game respects children, and our game protects children. No adult should be using this game to explore sexual themes or situations involving children, either as players or as characters. Under no circumstances should this game be used to tell stories involving sex. Period. To be very clear, this policy applies equally to all forms of sex and across all matters of sexual identity. Heterosexual subject matter is off limits, just as any other form of sexual content is off limits. To put it very simply, our society has a miserable track record when it comes to assisting young people in finding and asserting their sexual identities. Let us, as grown-ups, focus on providing and maintaining safe and healthy boundaries. Let's give the kids their privacy, please. When it comes to matters of love and of the heart, happiness is too rare and precious to risk damaging it through criticism and judgment. All across the galaxy, our colonies have been too beaten and downtrodden to ever deny love to anyone. Joy and human connection are the things that make life worth living, even when life is very hard to live. To see that connection light up another person's face, even when their attention is not directed at us, uplifts us all. In the diaspora, there is no right or wrong person to love. Where is a person supposed to find the strength to be a hero if not through love? Exploring love is always worthwhile in a Jump Rangers game or any other story. Disability and neurodiversity. In 2352, every human life is precious. Because every human life is precious, nobody bothers to question whether any person has all the parts and tools to be considered a truly human being. Instead, we try to make sure everyone has the tools they need to make the most of their life and their contributions to society. While the details are covered in Chapter 5, Tools of the Trade of the Jump Rangers core book, the simple fact is that the technology of 2352 can solve a lot of problems that it can't solve today. Just as importantly, growing up in the diaspora has made people respect the strength in their diversity. Disabled people are just as likely to receive tools to help them manage their disability as they are to have their disability removed in some way. In any case, it is a disabled person's right to decide what help they get and what help they need. Based on that disabled person's judgment, a colony's doctor and quartermaster will do everything they can to provide that assistance, the assistance they ask for. To provide the assistance to provide that assistance. That's clear. We like clarity. Imbalance of power. Just because we managed to leave our racism, sexism, our phobias, and our ableism in the past doesn't mean that humanity has conquered our addiction to power. In some ways, stripping away the rationalizations of racism and sexism has laid our addictions bare. In other cases, people have found entirely new ways of explaining away their abuses of power. Some human colonies have simply fallen prey to tyranny. Almost every human colony is isolated. All of our communications happen by hand. When Jump Rangers visit a given colony, they share news and current events. If someone's up to no good, nobody's going to find out about it until a Jump Ranger visits. Even then, a ranger might not realize something is wrong. When someone spends a lifetime establishing and building power, they usually don't want it to go to waste. Ill-gotten leadership will often get passed down from a parent to a child. When a jump ranger finds a governor or colonial leader who took the office the day their parents retired, it's always a good idea to make sure the colonists have agreed to let this person lead them. Be thorough and smart in investigations like these because powerful people are good at getting other people to lie for them. Something else that gives a person power and privilege is the status that comes from having been a jump ranger in the first place. Lots of rangers wind up leading colonies, which makes a lot of sense. Most jump rangers retire with strong leadership experience. Knowledge about human and alien technology, combat training, and all kinds of other useful skills under their hats. What's more, a jump ranger builds strong relationships with leaders from across the human colonies. Who better to govern than a former jump ranger? Not all jump rangers honor the code as grown-ups. Some people just get tired or bitter or angry or selfish. Life changes people. If someone used to be a jump ranger, the grown-ups around them probably won't look so closely at their flaws or inconsistencies. All they ever see is a hero. Lots of jump rangers have grown up to become great colony leaders. Just as surely, lots of jump rangers have grown up into people with no interest in leadership. All I'm saying for now is that it's a good idea to keep an eye on former jump rangers. To be seen as a hero is a privilege. Having people trust you without giving it a second thought is power. Power and privilege can be used for good, but it takes discipline to keep that up. When we lose that discipline, our power can get away from us, and that's when bad things start to happen. The good rule keeps us honest when we remember to practice it. The care rule keeps us healthy and rested, so we always have the energy to stay and practice. Keeping to the Ranger's code is a great way to make sure your power is used for good. Just end it there. Making sure that former Rangers are doing likewise is a very good practice to keep as well. Aren't keeping to the code as diligently, that can sometimes mean that something is wrong. Checking up on them can be a fantastic way of preventing bigger problems down the road. The care rule keeps us whales have the energy to stay disciplined. Keeping to the Ranger's Code is a great way to make sure your power is used for good. Yep. There. That's good. I think that is the end of our stream, folks. I'm going to get these files updated on the Google Drive. This has been a really great stream. Thank you for joining me. I'm thrilled with how productive this was. We'll be keeping it up. I'm going to be streaming on Saturday. I'm going to be doing the Datadeck Files, and with any luck, we'll also have a stream with Epiluni and Federico for metagame. But if not, we'll just do Datadeck Files for 4 hours. Either way, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you'll be there. In the meantime, don't be a stranger, Ranger.